Welcome to another deadline stream, an early one ahead of Game Week 24. It's good to see so many of you here already in the chat. We're going to go straight into your questions. I don't think I'm going to be making a transfer. I'm obviously open to the idea. I'm always have that possibility, especially late on, but I think this is how it's going to stand. And there is big news coming from yesterday about Chelsea players like Cucurella, Reece James, Thiago Silva not making the squad today. And the same goes for Hakim Ziyech. And also with Arsenal, Thomas Partey is not included in the squad, but Smith Rowe is. So all of that will have serious repercussions, I think, on the results this weekend as well. And also in terms of who starts for me, because I was seriously considering Cucurella. Now I'm just going to stick with Ben White for sure. And I don't think I'm going to have any benching dilemmas. Even the captaincy, which I'm open to a Rashford or Kane, I think I'm going to stick with Haaland. But of course, we're going to discuss it in the live chat extensively. And let's get straight into your questions as always. So let's go right from the beginning. Welcome to Lipuk. Good morning to you as well. I've got a benching headache. Team is Kepa, Trent, Shaw, Walker, Odegaard, Almiron, Bruno, Rashford, Mahrez, Kane, Haaland, bench, Ward, White, Trippier, Greenwood. I can see what you mean. Benching the likes of White and Trippier this week isn't going to be easy. But then I look at your team and I can understand why you've done it. Now, there's no guarantee Walker's going to start, and I would expect him to be benched in one of the next two Premier League games. So that could be an issue. And still, you play the fixture and you just hope he either starts or doesn't play at all. And that is quite likely, I'd say. Not too many times he'll come on for a one-pointer. Looking at your team, though, I think what I'd ultimately do, I think I'd just go with the exact same 11 you've done. I think that's the way to go. Maybe I'd bench Trent and I'd play Trippier. I'd favour Newcastle defensively a bit more, and Trippier's been exceptional this season for bonus points and chances created. So I'd go for Trippier over Trent, but the rest I'd keep the exact same Lipuk. Good morning to you as well, Nabil. White or Stupinian to start? Good question. I think Arsenal are a bit more likely to keep a clean sheet, but with no Thomas Partey, I think that's a big blow once again. And because Stupinian has been in great form, whilst White isn't even a certainty to start, and if that's the case, he'll come on for a one-pointer, I'd probably go for Stupinian. I'd go on the form and also the attacking potential. Should I roll a transfer or use it as I'm planning to free hit in Game Week 25? Well, if you're planning to free hit and you're settled on that plan, I'd probably use a transfer because you can maximize a certain area and improve it in your eyes. It might not turn out correct and you might be lamenting it afterwards, but you have to back your own decision making. So I would use the transfer right now. Welcome, Manir. I have Mitrovic, Akanji, Shaw, Bueno. I want to bench one of them. Well, Bueno I like a lot for this game week. The problem is he might not start, but the fixture is there for sure, and he has a chance of starting, but he is the least likely, I think, from those four to get that start. You could also argue Akanji as well. I definitely wouldn't bench Shaw, though. The one player I'd bench from those four, I think arguably could be Mitrovic. Once again, he's been off form over the last 5-6 game weeks as well. I currently have Kilman starting over Trippier. Is that madness? I think that's a fair decision. He's facing Bournemouth. Trippier, I mean, let's not forget, Newcastle have only lost to one team this season, and it was Liverpool, albeit different circumstances and at Anfield. But I don't think it's complete madness. Normally, I'd say just start Trippier, but I think there's a debate this week for sure, and I would try to start Kilman if you can. Having said that, I'd still go for Trippier over Kilman just because of the amount of avenues for points. And yes, Liverpool played well in the last game, but that's just one game against the poor Everton side. Welcome, Nick N. Good to see you as well. I hope you had a nice weekend as well. Just transferred Enrico Lewis out. Burn, what do you think? I'm not a big fan of Rico Lewis. I've always said this. I think he's a promising young talent and he's going to become a good FPL option in the future. But right now, he's not nailed on for the minutes and he could give you a lot of one-pointers. So honestly, I'd rather go elsewhere from Man City defence. And even then, you can point towards Ake and Akanji being the most nailed. Recently, they haven't been. So no one's safe from Man City, but in particular, Rico Lewis, in my opinion. Of course, it makes sense. And I think Rico Lewis will get a start over the next two. And obviously, Burn will be blanking in Game Week 25. But I still prefer Newcastle defenders long-term, of course. I understand why he did it. Not a big fan of Rico Lewis, though. Thank you, I appreciate that. ML Oguyo. Badiashile, Kilman, Trippier, me, Tarkovsky. Which three to start? Great question. I'd go for Kilman, Badiashile, and I think I'd go for Trippier. I also like Ben Mee, to be fair. That's a close one, but Tarkovsky would be at the bottom of the list, I think. So yeah, I think I'd go for those three. Having said that, Ben Mee against Palace, it would not surprise me if he got a big return as well. So it's a kind of tough one there. You know what? I think I might go for Ben Mee over Badiashile. It's a tough one. It's a good question you ask. I think I'd go for Mee, Trippier and Kilman. That's what I'd go for in the end. Tarkovsky or Kilman? I prefer Kilman. I think Wolves are a better team, and they also have better fixtures over the next few weeks. So I'd go for Kilman. Welcome, Aranya. What do you think about Gomez as a budget option, specifically for Double Gameweek 25? Not for me. There's the news that Van Dijk is going to return for Liverpool, I think, against Newcastle. We don't know yet about Konate and stuff. So, look, Joe Gomez has been decent, especially in Gameweek 23, but I just don't see him being completely nailed on. I would not be surprised if he loses a spot ahead of Gameweek 25. So, yes, I can see why you mention him. It's not a bad idea for sure, but I would have a lot of doubts in my mind whether he's going to maintain that spot in Gameweek 25, to be fair. So no, I don't think he's nailed on enough to really bring him in. But if you were to bring in a Liverpool defender, obviously if Gomez was completely settled on to start, I'd rather go for him over Trent and Robertson. So I see your thinking there. Yeah, I agree, Rob Hugo. I'd go for Kilman as well. Welcome, Patrick. Bench 1, Rashford, Mitoma, Odegaard, Saka, Mahrez, Tony, Kane and Haaland. Great question. It's going to be difficult for me to bench one of them, but I think I'd ultimately go for Odegaard. He's been off form, especially FPL-wise. I think all of the others are more likely to score or assist. Mahrez is the only kind of 50-50 doubt, and that's primarily due to the minutes. He might be benched in this game or come off early, but I'd definitely start the rest. And then for me, it's a question of Odegaard or Mahrez. I'd start Mahrez based on current form. Thank you for the super chat. Let me just get this up right now by Ross Wheeler. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very generous of you. I have Kepa, Ward, Shaw, Trippier, Akanji, White, Bueno, Rashford, KDB, Odegaard, Mitoma, Andreas, Haaland, Kane, Nketiah. 1.1 million in the bank, 1 free transfer. What could I do? That's a good question. It's a good team as well. Bueno is a good option provided he does start, but that's going to be the big issue for you heading into Double Gameweek 25. Is he going to be nailed on to start in Gameweek 24 and both games in 25? I don't think so. That is going to be the big issue there, and it is a bit of a shame because before that he was getting the nod at left back. But what I would do if you're going to free it in 25, I'd definitely use a transfer now to maximize your returns. And what would I do? The question. I'm going to try think about this because I like your defense. Obviously, Akanji might not start or whatever. I think I'd maybe focus your transfer in the midfield. So I'd only do this, by the way, if you are free hitting in 25, because otherwise you could roll the transfer and then have 2 in 25. So that would be my main advice, Ross. But if you want to use one now, I think I'd actually get rid of potentially someone like Martin Odegaard. But like I said, only if you're going to free it in 25, because otherwise, why would you get rid of someone who's going to double in 25? And I'd probably go to, it's a good question, got to think about this one and try to give you the best possible answer. Front three's fine, I think, although Nketiah, a few doubts about him. Odegaard out for... You've got quite a lot of the best options already. I'd go to Saka if you can. Odegaard to Saka, I think, is actually worth it right now. I would even consider it sideways, because ultimately you've got a solid team anyway, and even if there's doubts about Akanji or White starting, you can obviously just start one, and then if they don't come on at all, that's fine. They would be coming on for you anyway. So my advice would be Odegaard to Saka if you can. Obviously, it might seem sideways, but if you're free hitting in 25 anyway, it shouldn't be a big issue. So let me know, Ross, and then I can give you an even better answer if needed. Yes, saying I saw that. It's tragic news as well, and he's been missing for, what, 9 days or something, so... Yeah, a lot of us did fear the worst, and it is a shame that it has come to that. Hi, Dylan. Mitoma to Mahrez or Edouard to Joao Felix? Edouard to Joao Felix, without a doubt. I know Mitoma blanks in 25 and could in 28, and Mahrez has been excellent, but Edouard to Joao Felix looks like a much better transfer right now. Is it safe to play Almiron this week? I don't think it's a bad idea. Liverpool have still been poor over the course of the season. I think Almiron could thrive against a team that play in that way, so yeah, I think Almiron's a fine option. I don't mind starting him. He's not the best on paper this week, but he's also not the worst. Start Ake or White? Tough to say because I'm not so sure if Ake starts, but I'd probably go for him in the hopes that he does. Hi Dylan, should I bench Mount or Almiron? I'd rather bench Mason Mount still. Yeah, I think form and, looking at the way the season has panned out for both of them, I think Almiron is still my preference despite the fixture. Yeah, FPL Josh, I think I would do that. Tip for everyone, Newcastle, Liverpool 0-0. It's possible. I wouldn't mind that too much, but then I'd probably be kicking myself for not starting Botman. Hey Dylan, any news on Mitrovic? Not that I'm aware of, to be honest. I'll have a check for you now and see if there's anything. But yeah, let me just check this very quickly. Yeah, obviously it's all down to a late fitness test. He's got a foot injury. Let's wait and see what happens. He's at 75% chance of starting, but we have no updates really, as far as I'm aware. If there is, let me know in the comments. There might be an insider with information which I haven't seen, and I'd appreciate that. Ake and Almiron out or keep Ake? I'd probably keep Ake. He's still one of the most nailed-on Man City defenders, but ultimately his starting position every single week is going to be in jeopardy. He's not going to start every single week, but I would still expect him to start most. Of course, the Champions League could change that. Welcome, Dave. I've been offline for a while. It's good to see you back here once again. Obviously, I do remember you, Dave, a moderator, long-time moderator of this channel. Any Arsenal team leaks? Like I said, the only thing we have is that Partey's out of the squad and Smith Rowe is in, according to leaked lineups. Very reliable tier 1 source, so I would back that to be the case. No, particulars about the starting 11. There will be a few doubts. Tierney versus Zinchenko, maybe Xhaka as well. Maybe Zinchenko could slot into the midfield, and primarily Trossard. I think he has a really good chance of starting instead of either Martinelli or Eddie Nketiah. And then you've got White versus Tomiyasu. So you've got quite a few doubts there in the Arsenal lineup. But the only thing that we know for sure is that Partey's out and that Smith Rowe is in the squad, not necessarily the starting 11. Ross says, I'm thinking wildcard 27, free at 28, bench boost 29, mate. Yeah, it looks really good. And actually, it's a good thing you mentioned 29 because that is actually predicted by the likes of Ben Crellin to be the biggest double game week of the season, potentially, even over the likes of 34 and 37. So I think that's a really solid plan as well. You could also potentially delay some of these chips by a week or two, use the wildcard in 28 or 29, and you can still free it in 28, of course, if you wish, but then wildcard in 29 and then set yourself up for the rest of the season that way. But honestly, Ross, that looks very solid as well. I think it's all going to be between that period, 27, 28 to 34, to use the remainder of our chips. And for those of you with a triple captain as well, you'd probably look to use it in a smaller double game week so you don't interfere with the likes of the bench boost free hit and the wildcard itself. But that looks pretty good. Lungani says, can you teach me the Muchachos song because Argentina were killing in the World Cup? Maybe at the end, after the deadline. But yeah, I know most of the lyrics. I'll be honest, I don't know absolutely everything about it, but it is fun to sing. I sung it a lot during some celebrations in London, actually. The scout selection is captaining Rashford. Why? Well, despite Leicester being great recently, 8 goals in the last 2 games, they still ship in a lot, and Rashford is in the form of his life. He's got 14 goals, I believe, in 16 games, with 4 assists since the World Cup in all competitions. So he's one of the most informed players in the world. I think it's definitely a good shout. Now, I am considering it, but with, the expectation of Haaland starting, I think that's enough for me to go for him instead. Don't get City players, they will lose. You've been warned. Oh, I hope so. I really hope so, but I just don't see it happening, to be honest. I hope you're right. Let's see. And big up to Just a Craig, a great YouTube channel. Be sure to check him out for sure. Do you think Ake or Akanji will start? It's a tough one to predict. I'd actually be more confident of Akanji starting than Ake this week, but to be fair, it could be the role reversal. It could be one of them starting in 24, then it's the other case in 25. But I wouldn't expect either of them to start both games in 24 and 25 overall. But for this week specifically, I would be more confident about Akanji. Not necessarily certain, though. Hey, Dylan, Trippier or Nketiah? I'd actually go for Trippier. I saw a good question or comment that I want to highlight here. So yeah, Lungani says Bruno Guimaraes is a big miss. Yeah, that is true. He makes everything tick in the midfield. Of course, Newcastle could still do well without him, and they have been drawing with or without Bruno Guimaraes, but you make a really good point, and that would obviously maybe give Liverpool a better chance going into this game. He is so important, and if Bruno Guimaraes misses the Carabao Cup final, that would be, well, he should be fine for that, obviously. It's all suspension-based, but, he needs to be there for the Carabao Cup final. Otherwise, Newcastle could be in big trouble. Hi, Dylan. Bench Saliba or Trippier? I'd actually bench Saliba. You could argue Arsenal have a better chance of a clean sheet, but I think Aston Villa will score. And, of course, Liverpool can as well. But Trippier has so many avenues for points, so as a result, I'd go for him. Nketiah or Mitoma? Mitoma for sure. Bestie says KDB to Salah this week or hold until next week? Hold until next week because Salah's facing Newcastle, KDB against Nottingham Forest. I know then you'd be like, well, then he's facing Bournemouth. Do I want to get rid of him then? But Salah would have the double and he should still outscore Kevin De Bruyne. So, yeah, I'd hold this week. If you are convinced that Kevin De Bruyne won't start, then it might be worth doing the move now. But in my opinion, I'd keep Kevin De Bruyne for Game Week 24. Depends who you bench Trippier for, to be fair. I think it's a good argument to bench Trippier. He's been off form recently. Newcastle missing Bruno Guimaraes, as Lungani rightly points out. But ultimately, it depends who you bench Trippier for, because I'd still start him over most defenders this week. Hey, Dylan, Trippier or Nketiah? I'd go for Trippier. Like I said earlier, I'm not completely convinced that Nketiah will start. My gut feeling is that he will, but it's not a guarantee right now. Play one from Lewis, White, Andreas, or Nonto? Good question. I'd probably go for Lewis. I think he will start in 24. So yeah, from those four, I'd go for Lewis. But the big issue is if he comes on for a one-pointer. I think one thing that maybe will work in his favour, and for those that brought him in, someone else mentioned it earlier as well, is that during the double game week, Lewis didn't start either game, but he didn't come on, and that is perfect. You know, if you have such a cheap player playing in such a great team, you know, if he starts, obviously really good chance of getting points and clean sheets. But if he doesn't, it doesn't block a move from those that actually get the points in the end. So yeah, I do like that. Mahrez will play. I'm not completely sure about that. It's very difficult for me to say. I think he will, based on rhythm and momentum and form, but I don't expect him to start both of the next two games, and the same goes for a lot of City players in general. Odegaard or Gakpo to bench? I'd still bench Gakpo and start Odegaard. What is the best goalkeeper for the next 4 to 6 rounds? Really good question. I'd probably say Kepa, unless someone's escaping me. You know, Raya's a good option, but he blanks in 25. Obviously, the double in 27 compensates for that. But due to the amount of fixtures, I'd just go for Kepa, I guess, even though it's technically the same as Raya. Yeah, I think I'd go for Kepa. Do you think Mahrez starts? Yes. If I had to say yes or no, it'd be yes, but I'm not completely sure. Almiron will start. I don't have doubts about that. He has the wrist injury, or he sustained one against Bournemouth. Should be fine. Captain Haaland last week, only for him to be a rank drop. He was 205% owned around me due to the triple captains. Yeah. To be fair, though, only 10 points. That's the thing. Only 10 points for Haaland. Could have been much worse. You know, I used the triple captaincy on Rashford. I'm happy I'd done that. Obviously, a big gain on those that maybe triple captain Haaland this week or in 22, or was it game week 20, should I say? I'm completely fine with that anyway. Welcome, Ashish. Ake, Zinchenko, Trippier, Tony. Pick 2 to start for game week 24. Good question. I would go for Ake and Tony. That's what I'd go for. If you have any doubts about Ake starting, which I do to be fair, then I'd probably just go Trippier and Tony. So it's completely up to you there. I'd probably put Zinchenko lowest down in that list. Play Trippier or Cucurella. As I mentioned earlier in this video, it looks like Cucurella, Thiago Silva, Ziyech and Reece James have been left out of the Chelsea squad today. That means they have no chance of starting. They won't even be on the bench. So I would just go for the other. I wouldn't go for Cucurella. Play KDB or Salah. Kevin De Bruyne this week. I have Ake and White. Who should I bench? I'd go for White on the bench. My only concern is if Ake's benched himself, because if both of them start, I back City for the clean sheet more so than Arsenal this week. Hi Dylan, if I can only target 3 players, Brighton and Brentford for game week 27, who can be the best free shouts? Really good question. It would be Ivan Toney for me, assuming he doesn't get the yellow cards in between now and game week 27. Remember, if he gets 2 more, he will be suspended in the following game, so bear that in mind. But Ivan Toney, Ben Mee, and Mitoma would be my favourites. I also like Estupiñán as well. Those would be the best 4 overall. If I had to say 3 right now, I'd probably go for Ben Mee, Toney, and Mitoma. Good goalkeeper, Forster. As a second option, he's fine, but look at Spurs. They conceded 4 to Leicester. They conceded to AC Milan as well in the Champions League. And Spurs have a lot of issues. For me, the big problem is Bentancur being out for the next 6 to 8 months. That is a massive blow. I can't stress how much of a bad injury that is to Spurs. The worst case scenario for them and their Champions League hopes this season. So, yeah, he's a fine option as your second choice. Maybe better than Ward, but that's about it. Bueno or White, Dylan? I'm not sure if Bueno starts, but if he does, I'd definitely back him for the clean sheet more so than White. But that's the problem, though. Do you back him to start? If so, I'd go for Bueno. Captain Rashford or Haaland? As you can see from my team right now, I'm currently favouring Haaland, but it is a close call. And I'll show you some different sites like Fantasy Football Hub and showing you the predicted points for both of them if you wish. Is it worth transferring out Pope right now? I think so. Facing Liverpool, facing City in 26, not to mention the Carabao Cup final and the blank in 25. I think if there's ever a chance or an opportunity to sell these Newcastle players, it is now, and that includes Pope. Do not do it for a hit, though. It doesn't matter who he faces, and if Kepa faces Southampton at home, do not take hits for goalkeepers, trust me. I've done that before. I think I brought in Nick Pope ahead of Bournemouth early in the season. It didn't turn out right. Don't take hits. Salah in for Bruno, thinking about game week 25. Yes, but I wouldn't do it yet. I would do it in 25. I think Bruno against Leicester has a really good chance of a haul. Start Martinelli or Bueno? Thank you, Greenia. I actually think that Trossard will come in for Martinelli potentially. And if that's the case, that's going to be a big issue for you because Bueno's also a rotation risk. I'd probably go for Martinelli just for the upside, and I'm not completely convinced about either of them starting anyway, but I'd go for the upside in Martinelli. You might feel differently though, and if you want to go for Bueno, I don't blame you at all. Hey Dylan, what about Maddison? I like him a lot. I like him a lot. The problem is the fixtures aren't really there for him, and Leicester still don't really fill me with confidence, but I think he has been a big catalyst to their improvement recently. They've scored 8 goals in the last 2 games against 2 decent teams as well. But yeah, I like him. I always do. And if you are maybe looking to get rid of a Mahrez or a Kevin De Bruyne or something like that, I think Maddison's a really good player to get, even if the fixture in 25 isn't great against Arsenal. Trippier or Shaw? I'd go for Shaw this week. Hi Dylan, start Botman or Mings? I'd still go for Botman, I think. As bad as Arsenal have been, I still expect them to score against Aston Villa. Bench White or Bueno? It's a tough one. I think I'd just bench Bueno because I'm not completely sure if he starts. I'm more confident of Ben White. But then again, I could be completely wrong about that. And if you think Bueno's going to start, I think he has a better chance of a clean sheet. So that's just the way you have to think about it, about whether you think he's going to start or not, because we might have differing opinions on that. And to be honest, I am conflicted. Captain Salah or Kane? Kane. Should I do Bueno for Tarkowski for a -4 or roll the transfer? I'd roll the transfer. Start Kepa or Edison? I'd go for Kepa, despite Edison having a good fixture as well. But yeah, the only concern with Chelsea is those 4 key players being left out of the squad. Obviously, Cucurella, I'm not really a big fan of, but the other 3, especially Thiago Silva and Reece James, those are 2 big defenders to be left out of the squad. Best goalkeeper for the long run? Probably Kepa. Fernandes to Saka for a -4? Would I do it for a hit? No. I would just save it for next week for free. And if you take a -4 then, so be it. But I think this week isn't really the best time to take a -4 to get rid of Bruno. Which 2 to bench from Trippier, me, Bueno, Kilman, or Tarkowski? I'd bench Tarkowski and then probably Bueno and start Kilman, Trippier, and me. If you're really convinced of a Wolves clean sheet and of Bueno starting, then I'd consider Bueno over maybe Trippier, but I'd go for the safe one in Trippier, me, and Kilman. Play Zinchenko or Stupinian? I'd go for Purvis or Stupinian. Play Ake or Tarkowski? For me, it's simple. I'd go for Ake. What do you think of doing Mitrovic to Darwin next game week and Botman to Tarkowski Kilman? Looks really solid. Overall, I prefer Mitrovic, but he's been off form, and I think Darwin's a really good option in 25. At least for that game week specifically, he's a good option on paper. Maybe not really good, and I think it's worth doing that transfer. So yeah, I like both of those moves. I'd rather go for Kilman over Tarkowski personally at this moment in time. Tony out, Felix in. Not a bad idea, provided you get Tony back in 26 or 27, and if he doesn't get the 2 yellow cards, of course. Like I said, Malik, Cucurella is not going to be in the squad according to a reliable source in Sam. You can check out the Twitter, I think it's SamC345, something like that. So according to him, he's a really reliable source. Cucurella is out of the squad. The same goes for Reece James and Thiago Silva and Hakim Ziyech. So that's why Cucurella is last on my bench. Otherwise, he was going to be first on my bench or in the starting 11 for Ben White. Well, yeah, Chilwell is a thing right now, that's for sure. But what my thinking was a few days ago was that Chilwell would be rested for the Champions League and Cucurella would start in the Premier League once again. Long term, I know Cucurella's not a good option. I want to get rid of him, but I thought he would start in Game Week 24. It looks like he won't be. Who should I start, Mbeumo, Almiron, or Rico Lewis? Really good question. I'd probably go for Mbeumo. That's the thing, though. Look, to be completely non-biased, I know Arsenal have had a great season, but so have Napoli. I don't see a reason why Kvaratskhelia would go from Napoli, who, in my opinion, are a better team than Arsenal, especially this year, and then kind of downgrade. I know it's the Premier League and all of that, bigger contract, whatever it may be, but if I was a Napoli player, I'd be very happy to stay right now. Play Ake or White? I'd play Ake. Should I transfer Mitrovic out? If so, for who? The only forwards I'd consider transferring Mitrovic out for right now would be Darwin Nunez, Joao Felix, Harry Kane, and Erling Haaland if you didn't have him already. Apart from that, I don't see any, maybe Nketiah as well, but apart from those 5, no one else that I'd go to. So maybe Felix could be a good option for you, or Nketiah if you don't have that triple up in Arsenal already. I have Pope and Kepa. Do I sell Pope now or keep for a bench boost? The thing is, generally, even with a bench boost, you don't need 2 goalkeepers, of that price. Pope's the most expensive goalkeeper in the game, and Kepa is 4.6, 4.7 million. So, look, I don't mind keeping Pope, but at the same time, he does blank in 25, and if you get rid of him, you could also increase the funds to make better moves in the outfield position. So, yeah, you could sell Pope, but the only thing I would say is do not sell a goalkeeper for a hit. I can't be more clear about that because I've also suffered from that as a result. many times before. Who should I start between Mitoma and Odegaard? I would go for Mitoma. I would go for Haaland captain, but it's really close. I was considering Rashford all week, and I still may do. His form is absolutely incredible, but I might go for Haaland. It's a really close call. I might change my mind towards the end of the stream, and if you're still here, you might see me do that. It's almost 50-50 for me, but at the moment, I am favouring Haaland. Start Odegaard or Neves? Still Odegaard for me. Wolves have been great, but I don't trust Neves as an FPL asset. Start Estupiñán or Trippier? I would go for Estupiñán this week. Potentially a striker under 7 million. Good question. Apart from Nketiah, who would be the best for me, I'd say Brennan Johnson's a nice option, but to bring him in this week ahead of City, no, not for me. But yeah, Brennan Johnson would be one of my favourites under 7 million. Start Mahrez or Mitoma? I'd still start Mitoma just because I know he's going to start and he has a good chance of pulling in any game. Hi Dylan, is Patterson worth holding on to? Yes, I think he has a good chance of starting in Gameweek 25. Maybe not both games though, and thus maybe that might put you off and you want to sell him as a result and go to Tarkowski or Kilman, which would be completely understandable. But I think it's worth keeping Patterson for now. Evaluate the situation, see if he's on the bench and, you know, what happens in Gameweek 24. Does he get minutes? And if so, that might be promising heading into the Double Gameweek 25. But for the time being, I'd hold and then reevaluate and have more information heading into the double. Note, like I said, James will not be in the squad according to a really reliable source. So yeah, the same goes for the likes of Cucurella, Thiago Silva and a few others. Start Raya or Kepa? Kepa. Is Mitrovic going to play? I can't tell you that for sure. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it's all down to a late fitness test. I think he will be in the starting 11, but I'm not too sure. Start Andreas or Lewis? I'd go for Rico Lewis. Choose 3, Gabriel, Ake, Shaw, Botman, Trippier. I'd go for Trippier, Shaw and Ake. Start Martinelli or White? Difficult one, because if I'm to guess who's more likely to start, it would be White. Having said that, if Martinelli does start, I would back him for return more so than Ben White. So it's kind of a tricky one. I'm going to go based on who I think will start, and that's Ben White. So I would naturally start Ben White, but it can go wrong. I could be completely, you know, off the mark in both terms in terms of those players. Thank you, Mandip. I appreciate that. I'm going to have a check now about that Patterson update, but I appreciate it. Thoughts on KDB hauling? If he starts, yeah, he has a good chance of hauling against Forest and Bournemouth, but the problem is he might not start both games, or even, I mean, I'd be surprised if he doesn't start one of them, to be fair. But yeah, with Pep, you just never know. But yeah, if KDB starts, I think he'll get a good haul. Is there any detriment to starting Cucurella? If he's in the squad, is there a negative impact on subs? No. If he's not in the squad, he'll still come off for you if he doesn't play at all. So I do understand what you're saying, James. I've done that in the past. You know, when I've had news of a certain player not being in the squad, I would still start them just in case because, you know, in my opinion, he's either playing in the starting 11 or not in the squad at all, and then that's the way it works. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with having Cucurella first, you know, on your bench or in your starting 11. Bueno transfer out? Difficult for me to say because he might actually start against Bournemouth and do well, and of course that could be frustrating to get rid of him. But heading into 25, there's going to always be that doubt about him starting, and that's why a move to Kilman might be profitable for you, but I wouldn't do it for a hit, especially right now. Martinelli versus Andreas. Well, normally I'd go for Martinelli, but as you say, expected minutes plays a factor as well. The thing is, though, I don't really see either of them hauling, and if there was one to haul, I'd actually back Martinelli more so than Andreas, but the minutes also influence that a lot. So it's a tricky one, but I'd still start Martinelli just in case he starts, because if he does, I think he has a decent chance, or at least compared to Andreas, of doing something. Start Zinchenko or Estupiñán? I would go for Estupiñán. Sudindra says, I've got 6 players blanking next game week. Is it worth selling Bruno and Botman instead of Tarkowski? For Wolves, Everton midfielder and Tarkowski from -4. Honestly, I like the defender transfer, but I do not like the Wolves Everton midfielder because who we're going to go for? Iwobi, Adama Traore, Neves. I just don't like these options. I can't bring myself to recommend them. The only way I'd go for these options is if I was free hitting, to be fair with you, Sudindra. So I like the defender transfer, not the midfielder one. I'd rather get rid of Bruno for someone else, whether it's an Arsenal midfielder or maybe someone else entirely. Do you honestly think Man United are keeping a clean sheet? Not necessarily, but I did learn my lesson last week the hard way, benching Shaw. It was last second as well, by the way, may I add, but yeah, I think Man United have a chance. They've been very good since the restart. They've been arguably the best or the second best team in England. So I wouldn't say it's completely off the charts or impossible. However, looking at the game, what do I think will happen? I think both teams will score, but United will get the win. Should I play Ake or Almiron? I'd go for Ake. Yeah, apparently James is out. Obviously, this is according to a really reliable source, not to me. Saka, Odegaard, or Saka, Darwin? Still Saka, Odegaard for me. Start White or Trippier? I'd go for Trippier. Bench 2 of Kilman, Shaw, White, Trippier, Tarkowski. I would bench Tarkowski and Ben White. Will Hugo Bueno start? I'm not so sure. If I had to hazard a guess, it would be yes. But if he does in 24, I would not be too convinced or too confident going into Game Week 25. Welcome, Albiazul. I'm doing well. What about you? Almiron or Andreas? I'd go for Almiron. Yep, I think you can, Aisha. Like I said earlier, he's not the best, but he's also not the worst option this week. Almiron or Andreas? Yeah, we've gone through that. Start Almiron, White, Nonto or Tarkowski. From those four, I'd probably go for White. It's between him and Almiron, and I'd probably go for White. Who to captain in this game week? For me, it's between Haaland and Rashford. And I think one aspect that is maybe making me consider Rashford seriously, and I might change the captaincy towards the end, is not only the form, but also the minutes. I think Rashford will get the 90. With Haaland, though, I could see him being subbed off quite early in preparation for next week in the Champions League. Bench 1 of Trippier, Gabriel, Shaw, Estupiñán. From those four, I think I'd bench Gabriel. Bruno Fernandes and Martinelli out for Saka and Mahrez. I think the week to do that was last week. This week is a bit of a weird one because Bruno faces Leicester. I could see him doing well. And as for Mahrez, I'm not so sure if he starts. So I think Martinelli to Saka, it might seem sideways, but I think that's a good move. Bruno out for Mahrez, I'm not so sure. If you're confident Mahrez getting the minutes, then go for it, but I would be a bit concerned. Start Mitoma or Odegaard? Mitoma. Che Adams and Almiron or Nonto and Neves? Not a big fan of either duo, to be fair. If I had to pick one, it probably would be Nonto and Neves, simply because of the double for Wolves and 25, and Nonto is just a cheap option you can bench anyway. Yeah, you can use the 3 and 25, of course. I'm looking to use it a bit later in the season, but I'm also open-minded because after this game week, I might, reevaluate and maybe change my plans accordingly. But I think a 3 and 25 is viable. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate that. Bernd Leno is my GOAT since the restart. He has been very impressive. I've been surprised. Fulham, before the restart, very impressive, but weren't keeping that many clean sheets, still conceding a lot of goals. But since then, quite a few clean sheets, points for the likes of Ream, Bernd Leno, and all these other options, so fair play. I would go for Trippier, Nabil, to be fair. Ben Mee or Mbeumo? I'd probably favour Ben Mee a little bit more. I would go for Ake and Naninara. Grovey puts his team, what defenders to start and who to transfer. Defenders to start, it's a tough one for you this week, but I would go for Shaw, Estupiñán, and if I had to pick just one more, it's between obviously the other two, Trippier and Walker, and I'd probably go for Walker. But then again, it could be Ridiculous coming in. It's going to be a tough one for you this week. In terms of who to transfer, yeah, I would use one free transfer this week and then have 2 for Game Week 25 again. So what would I do? You've only got 0.1 million in the bank, which isn't ideal, really, because I would consider getting rid of Martinelli. What you could do is get Saka in for Martinelli, and in order to do that, you could make a downgrade elsewhere. And what would I be looking to do? I think potentially I downgrade a defender, if you can, to a really budget option, or you could even consider De Bruyne down. But the thing is, if De Bruyne starts, he could do really well. But really, for me, what would really improve your team is Martinelli to Saka. Something like that would be a really good move for you, Grovey. So maybe you could consider getting rid of Trippier for now, downgrade to a Kilman or something like that. And if you have the funds and the means to do it, then I think that's a really good move, and you can get Saka in for Martinelli. However, I don't think that will be the case for you. So let me know your thoughts on that. I think you might be a bit short. So in that case, I think De Bruyne is the best player to downgrade, but that could also massively backfire, to be quite frank with you. Trippier, Nketiah, Kanji, Shaw, Tarkowski, choose 3. I'd go for Shaw. I'd go for a Kanji and probably Nketiah. Can't afford Martinelli to Saka alone, need to make a second transfer. Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of us this week. And for those of us that maybe did that move and went for Saka last week, it's going to be difficult to get Salah this week. So it's kind of interesting to see how these different transfer plans and different paths are going to lead to points in the next few weeks. But yeah, I can see that. Start March or Willian. Willian's been in great form, to be fair, but I would go for March. Should I bench Martinelli for Ake or Andreas for Ake? How much would you recommend? Look, I don't think Felix is suddenly an amazing option. Of course, he was impressive in the last Premier League game, even against Fulham before he got sent off. But we still haven't seen too much of him yet. And Chelsea created a lot of chances against Dortmund. They should have scored. They had some really big chances that they missed. But the fixture, of course, is there for Felix this week, and also some decent ones in the next 4 to 5. But yeah, I think I would recommend it, on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 7. I wouldn't make it a priority, but it's not a bad move. Joao Felix for Mitrovic now or Tony for Mitrovic after blank game week? Tony. The only issue with that is that Tony might be suspended between now and 27 because he's got 8 yellow cards, 2 more, and he will be suspended for the following game. I'd still start Shaw, and between Tarkowski and Botman, maybe I would start Tarkowski, but I'd definitely start Shaw from those 3. Nottingham Forest lost both starting centre-backs to hamstring injury. Yeah, that's a really good point that I haven't mentioned, FPL Diamond. That's probably another reason why I'm just going to go for Haaland myself. But look, it's a difficult one. I still think Rashford's form makes him a really viable option this week. Yep, like I said earlier, Vojta, Benchi was always going to be a thing with him coming back, but I was expecting Cucurella to start this week. It looks like he won't be now. The only thing we know is that Partey's not going to be in the squad and Emil Smith-Rowe will be. That's it. I mean, to be honest, good luck to you as well, but with your team. Haaland captain doesn't really do too much for me because he's just owned by so many people in the game and also captained by so many people. Sell Mitrovic to Felix or Botman to Kilman or both for a hit or roll. This week, I think Botman to Kilman is obviously the better long-term transfer. I think I'd do that instead, because it also gives you the opportunity to start Mitrovic in 25, or maybe then you can decide to sell him in 25, or just hold on to him and then sell in 26 or 27 for Mbumo or Ivan Toney. March or Nketiah, I'd go for Nketiah. Dawson versus Trippier versus Gabriel versus Tarkowski. Which 2 are the best choices this week? Not a big fan of any of them necessarily. I'd say Dawson this week against Bournemouth, and the other one would be still Trippier for me. Felix or Darwin for the next 5 game weeks. I think Felix is a better FPL option based on what I've seen so far. Obviously, very limited sample size, but Darwin does have the double in 25. I'd say Felix, actually, from those 2. No, as we said earlier, Cucurella will not be in the squad according to a reliable source, so he won't even be on the bench. Start 2 between Shaw, White, Bueno, and start Mitrovic or March. I would start Shaw and Bueno, just in the case that Bueno does start. And as for Mitrovic or March, I would go for... I think I'd go for March. Let's see. Oh, yeah. By the way, Yogesh, I hope you're still here. Thank you, Cylindra, for pointing it out. I didn't see this chat. It got lost in the sea here. So thank you, Yogesh, for the super chat. Bench 1, Mahrez, KDB, Bueno, Trippier. Hopefully you're still here, Yogesh. Let me know. From those 4... I would bench Bueno. As much as he has a good chance of getting a clean sheet if he starts, I think the other 3 still really good opportunities of hauling. Obviously, KDB and Mahrez, you could argue, a big rotation risk in 24 and 25, but I would start them still. And then it's between Bueno and Trippier. And honestly, it's a close one, and I can understand if you go Bueno. I don't think there's a bad option there, but I'd go for Trippier. I still think you can haul this week. So hopefully you got that, and I apologise for not seeing it earlier. Thank you, Karaki. I appreciate that. We got it, I think, last Tuesday. Already feels like such a long time ago. And there was so many of you there for the live stream. I think 1.2 thousand at one point concurrent viewers. So I appreciate everyone who stopped by, showing support. And those of you that still continue to support the channel in the FPL streams as well. Bench 1, Odegaard versus Nketiah versus Mitoma. Probably Odegaard. It's between him and Nketiah right now. Tough one. You know what? I'd bench Nketiah just because Odegaard has a high ceiling. He's also more nailed on. I would not be surprised if Trossard came in for Nketiah and started up front. Should I bring Kilman in for Soufal this week or does Soufal have any chance of a clean sheet? I'd bring Kilman in this week, Aranya. Makes sense. He's got Bournemouth this week and then he has a double. I think Kilman in this week makes sense. And yeah, I think West Ham could get a clean sheet. It's not out of the realms of possibility, but it's very unlikely in my opinion. Short to Tarkowski or roll? I'd roll. I think Shaw outscores Tarkowski this week. Who to start, Arnold or Trippier? Really good question. I'd go for Trippier. I'd back Newcastle still. for the clean sheet. More out of those two teams anyway. Out of Trippier, Shaw, Ake, White, which three should I start? I'd start Shaw, Ake, and Trippier. Hey Dylan, Ake or Shaw to start? Sure. And that also answers Surrender's question. Start White or Tarkowski? I would go for Ben White. Lungani says, I can't go against Haaland. He hurt my rank as I captain Nketiah, who missed 2 sitters. Yeah, Nketiah was not a bad option, but he can be like this sometimes. By the way, Abraham, I'm trying to spam the chat because we're trying to go for as many questions as possible, and you are getting in the way of other people. So, yeah, try not to do that. But yeah, back to the question by Lungani, or the point. I do agree with you. I can understand why the effective ownership is frustrating sometimes, and I do wish that the game was a bit more open in terms of the captaincy. I mean, look at UCL Fantasy. You know, in the first day I captained Harry Kane, then I was able to move on to Joao Mario. I do like that kind of switching the captaincy in a way, because it also allows you to be different and to go for something, you know, else other than just Haaland captain and not thinking of anything, you know, something different really. Trippier or Badiashile for the next 5 game weeks? It'd be Badiashile. Is it the right time to replace Mitrovic? I'd say so. He's an injury out. He's also off form, and the fixtures aren't that great. So yeah, I'd say so. And I would maybe go to Felix right now. But ultimately, my favourite front three, provided they are all suspension and injury free, would be Tony, Kane, and Haaland. Captain Rashford or Haaland, and should I captain or should I start Odegaard or Mitoma? I'd start Mitoma, and for the captaincy, it's really close. I think I'm going to go for Haaland, though, because I think he'll start and get 60, 70 minutes, which will be enough for him to get a haul. The source is for the Chelsea news, Sam C345, I believe. I think it might be wrong. But yeah, he's a really reliable source. And as for the Arsenal news that I mentioned, that is according to leaked lineups, which is also very reliable. Bench 2 and start 2. I'd start Mahrez and Ake, I think, yeah. Mahrez or Haaland? I mean, Mahrez has been a better option recently, but Haaland still for me. Shaw for Tarkowski? No, not this week. Maybe do it next week. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate it. What else do we have? Reece James playing this week or no? He's out of the squad, apparently. That's what I mentioned earlier. Do I think Ake will start? Yes, but I can't tell you that for sure. Ronaldo to Mitrovic from -4. I mean, Ronaldo's not in the game anymore, is he? Start White or Kilman? Kilman. Should I go Nketiah and Bruno to Felix and Odegaard for a -4? No. Nketiah has a... Obviously, I'm guessing I know why you're doing it, because you're trying to get Odegaard instead of Nketiah for the double game at 25, but I don't think that's worth a hit, especially this week. Bruno alone could do really well in game at 24, should I say. Should I shift Bamford to Nunez or Roll? I would shift him, but you can maybe save it for next week. Ultimately, that's a good transfer. Bamford hasn't been great since his injuries. Sell Martinelli? Yes, I think so. I believe White starts. It's not set in stone, though. Kilman for sure, or Cucurella already have 11 to play for game at 25. I'd sell Cucurella. He's not in the squad this week, and you can always get rid of Shaw in game at 25 and then bring him back in eventually. But I'd rather have Shaw this week anyway, of course. Nketiah versus Neves, Nketiah, and Trippier versus Kilman. I'd probably go for Kilman there. Yeah, just to let you know, I'm not, obviously I don't want to do this, but if you do spam, you're going to be timed out or even banned. I don't want to do that. Haaland, captain or Rashford? I'd go for Haaland, but it's a really close call. Nketiah or Fernandes? Nketiah. Do you think Mahrez will start? Yes. Captain Rashford? I think that's what it says. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Felix for Tony this week? Yep. It's not a bad move, but I'd still keep Tony. If anything, do it in 25 and then bring Tony back in around 27 if he's not suspended. What's the Arsenal league lineup? There is no league lineup, at least as far as I'm aware. The only thing we know is that Partey's not in the squad and that Emil Smith-Rowe is back. Good morning, Dylan. It's about to be 5 a.m. here in the States. Jesus. Benching Nketiah or Almiron? I would bench Almiron. But yeah, big up, Jared. Thank you very much for tuning in so early. I would not be awake at 5 a.m, even if it was for FPL. Start Tete or Bueno? Bueno. Martinelli to Mitoma? I wouldn't do that this week because Mitoma blanks in 25 and could blank in 28 as well. And there is a chance that the double in 27 will be taken away from Brighton because of train strikes. I'm not so sure how likely that is, but it's a possibility that we need to consider. I would start White over Botman this week. Sell Kane and Odegaard for Salah and Iheanacho? No. That does not make sense because Kane faces West Ham at home. I think he could do well. Odegaard's a great option for the double. Iheanacho's been fantastic, and Salah obviously is a good option for 25, but I don't think it's the right time to do those transfers. If anything, do it in 25, but even then, I would not be selling Kane and Odegaard, to be honest. I think it's a better duo. Pick a bench order for these: Gay, Andreas, Nonto, Dunk, White. For me, in first position, it probably would be White. Second, Dunk. Third would be Andreas. Fourth, Nonto, and Gay. Fifth. I think that's what I'd go for. Worth swapping Kane for Felix? No, not in my opinion. I like Felix. Potentially could be a good option, but Kane is still far better. Kilman or Trippier to start? Kilman. Saka, Odegaard? I think it's Saka right now, clearly. Odegaard has the higher potential in terms of the double-digit returns, but Saka's been more consistent recently. I would go for White over Almiron this week. Wow, I didn't even know that, FPL Diamond. Yeah, the chat has been very busy today. So yeah, let me just have a check myself. I might have gone up a little bit since then, so just bear with me for a second. So yeah, I think we've got over 400 people watching. Thank you very much to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe for new, all of that good stuff. We've answered so many questions today, and if I have, be sure to show some support back. It would be very much appreciated. Check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the channel memberships, the Twitter, Instagram, Discord server, FPL League. There's so much there in the description below, so be sure to check all of that out. And thank you very much to everyone who helped us reach 18,000 subscribers the other day. Before I go back to your questions, and by the way, if I do miss any super chats or anything, be sure to let me know. I will be getting to them very soon. But let's go for a few screens, such as the fixture ticker. Not much has changed. Arsenal remain top. Man City, though, have gone down to around mid-table here. And you've got the likes of Brentford and Brighton quite high up, despite their blank in Gameweek 25. In terms of those at the bottom of the list, Man United are still there, and Newcastle. Of course, they'll be facing each other in the Carabao Cup final very soon in Gameweek 25. But that is the look at the fixture ticker according to Fantasy Football Hub. Let me know your thoughts if you disagree or agree. This is according to, or based on the next 6 game weeks, prospectively, in terms of expected points and what looks like the best fixtures on paper. Then looking at predicted points for Gameweek 24, Haaland is top and Rashford is second. I think they are the 2 best captaincy options this week. I do agree with the algorithm here. You've got Felix here in 4th position, Harry Kane in 3rd, Bruno Fernandes 5th, and then you've got Mahrez, De Bruyne, Mitoma, Nketiah, and Havertz completing the top 10. I think that's a fairly solid top 10. I can agree with that. I think Haaland does get the edge here, facing Nottingham Forest without 2 of their starting centre-backs, as FPL Diamond rightly pointed out. You do have Rashford in great form, though, 14 goals since the World Cup, and also 4 assists, I think in 16 games, something ridiculous like that. He's been absolutely fantastic. Erling Haaland, though, it will still be the favourite. He will be, I'm not sure in terms of effective ownership, but maybe 150, 190%, something like that, something ridiculous. And it is a bit of a shame, but he is that good of an FPL option, of course, and he can tick along nicely as always. But we do have a serious consideration and alternative in Marcus Rashford here. Let me show you very quickly the predicted price rises. This is according to FPLstatistics.co.uk. Mahrez could be going up today, but I wouldn't be too certain about that. It might be delayed for later in the week, or maybe it won't happen at all. In terms of those going down, Mitrovic, Almiron, and a few others there who are a bit close, but you would expect Mitrovic and Almiron to go down very soon. No, not too many surprises here, I'd say. And anything else we want to show you? Let's show you this very quickly. This will be a very popular transfer next week. Kevin De Bruyne versus Mohamed Salah. They're very similar when you compare all the underlying numbers. If you compare their expected goal involvements, both of them around 15, 16. You've also got good shot volume, a lot of good big chances and big chances created combined. Salah's always good statistically, but he hasn't had a great season. Of course, he can produce these big returns, as he did against Aston Villa in Gameweek 17 and also in Gameweek 22, or Gameweek 23, should I say, against Everton. And he's got the double in Gameweek 25 as well. The big issue with De Bruyne and other Man City assets now will be Champions League. I think they play next week, I think on the Wednesday, the 22nd of October. I'm still living in dreamland here, of February. And as a result, I do think selling De Bruyne, even if he's facing Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth away, it is worthwhile. And I'm not a big fan of Salah this season, but it is still a really good transfer. And he's arguably the best captain option in Gameweek 25. It's between him and Saka. And I'd still favour Saka a little bit more, but Salah is always going to be up there in a double game week. So let me know your thoughts on everything we've covered just now. And very soon I'll go back to my team. Not many changes will be made, I think, when we're looking at the captaincy and all of that. I think that's the only thing that could potentially change. Start Ake or Almiron, says ZV UK. I'd go for Ake. Paulo Dybala, Odegaard -4 for Mahrez. Already have Saka. You're getting rid of Odegaard for Mahrez? If that's the case, definitely not. Odegaard doubles in 25. Mahrez might not even start. And the other way around, would I do it for a -4 this week? No. Ultimately, I'd rather have Odegaard for the next 2 game weeks, but I wouldn't take a -4 hit for it. Any suggestions for Almiron replacement that plays in Game Week 25? Thinking of Neves Pereira as a placeholder for Mitoma. Andres Pereira will be my favourite, to be honest. Obviously, you're mentioning a different Pereira, but Andres would be one of my favourite midfielders in 25, period, just to have to bench in other weeks as well. I'm honestly not a big fan of Wolves, Everton midfielders. If I had to pick one, I think it would potentially be Adama Traore or Neves. So I think I'm going to go for Neves, but I'm not a big fan of these options, to be quite frank. I think Mahrez will start, but I don't think he starts both 24 and 25. I would go for Kilman. De Bruyne likes second halves of the season. You could say the same about Mahrez, to be fair. With De Bruyne, he's always good. He had a really good first half of the season. You could argue that since the World Cup, he's been pretty poor, actually. And obviously, he got that big haul against Arsenal, but I wouldn't be too sure about that. I think Mahrez is more of a second half of the season player. But it's not obviously a bad suggestion there. Which one do you reckon to play, Mitoma or March? Mitoma. Bench who? Cucurella, Shaw, Zinchenko, Trippier, play Solanke. Well, Cucurella will not be in the squad apparently, so I think that decision's been made for you already. So Cucurella to bench, and if I had to bench one more, it would be Zinchenko. Idolum, bench 1, White, Shaw, Trippier, Badiashile, or Ake. That is a close one, but I think I'd bench White, honestly. If you would have a choice, which forward would you go for? Probably Felix. Despite Nunez having the double, I like Nketiah as well still, but probably I'd go for Felix. Wow, 5:50 a.m. here in the Caribbean. Obviously, big up FPL Diamond for tuning in as always. Honestly, the dedication from some people around the world for FPL is unreal. I would not be doing that. I'd be sleeping, honestly. Martinelli start. I think one of Nketiah or Martinelli will be a bench for Trossard, and I think he will be Martinelli. I don't think Arteta will go for Trossard as a false 9, although it is possible. I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll just put Trossard in for Martinelli. So my answer will be no. Start Ake or Shaw? I'd go for Shaw. Start Gabriel or Trippier, says Keenan. I'd go for Trippier. Rashford or Haaland or Tony captain? Haaland for me. Then Rashford and then Ivan Toney. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate that. So always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Nuclear Arms. Is Laporte fine? Or is Laporte fit? I think so. Obviously, it was a bit surprising not to see him start against Arsenal, but I think he'll be rested for the Champions League. I think that's what he's gonna, what he's kind of being left for. And Ruben Diaz will be the most nailed overall, in my opinion, along with Ake. Kane or Felix? Still Kane for me. Sorry if this has been asked already. If you could bring in any defender this week. No, it's a different question. I do appreciate that. One defender for this week. Let's have a look at the fixtures and let me just see if that's fine. Let me just see. All right, so let's get rid of that. Let's change the screens and go through the fixtures together. So, one defender for this week alone, it probably would be Wolves. I'd back them for a clean sheet against Bournemouth despite their recent improvements, and I think I'd go for Kilman. And not only that, he's a good option for Game Week 25 with a double as well. I think I'd go for Kilman. Even Craig Dawson with more attacking potential, very good from set pieces, but yeah, one of those two would be fine, and I'd probably go for Kilman. He's very good for bonus points as well. So that would be my answer. Of course, you could consider Ben Mee against Palace. I would not be surprised if you got a 12, 15 pointer, but I would go for Kilman. Safe and steady, in my opinion. Then I'll change March to Gakpo. The double game at 25 is not a bad idea, and March isn't the best FPL option around, of course. He's got quite a lot of double-digit returns in the last 6 game weeks, but he does blank in 25 and could blank in 28 as well. Yeah, it's not a bad choice, but I'm not a big fan of Gakpo despite his return in game week 23. If there was any Liverpool player I'd go for, it would be Salah. I'm not really considering Gakpo right now. Thank you, FPL Diamond. Trippier out, Reece in. Reece is not going to be in the squad, Abram, according to a reliable source. And Trippier is still a decent option in 24, so I would not get Reece James in. I'd bring in a Wolves defender. Better fixture in 24, and I would also back them longer term as well. So yeah, I'd go for Kilman or Craig Dawson. I could see why you consider Tarkowski. Maybe a better chance of a clean sheet as well, but I'd go for Trippier. Let's not forget how good of an FPL option he's been all season. Should I keep Mahrez? I would, but I would also be open-minded to maybe selling him in the next few weeks as well. I'd go for Bueno, but I would not be convinced about him starting. He hasn't been in the last 2 weeks as well. I'd go for Odegaard still. Watkins could score against Arsenal. He has done it before, but I'd go for Odegaard. I decided to start Bueno this week. Aït-Nouri played badly, so there's maybe a chance Bueno starts. Ben White is my first sub. Yeah, I think that's fair. If I had Bueno, I'd probably start him just in the hopes that he does, get the nod and the 60 minutes as well. So let's now go back to my team. Not much has changed. The only thing that's really changed in terms of my team selection is Cucurella's gone from first sub to third, following the news that he will be left out of Chelsea's squad today. The same goes for Reece James, Thiago Silva and Hakim Ziyech. The other news with Arsenal is that Thomas Partey is not in the squad while Smith Rowe has returned, but that doesn't mean he's starting. I don't expect him to anyway. I've got Wan-Bissaka and Cucurella. Transfer one out for either Collins or Trent now, or hold and wait a week. I'd only make a transfer now if you have 2 free transfers and you don't want to burn one. But if you've only got 1 free transfer, I would roll it and wait for next week and just start Wan-Bissaka potentially. Let's get McNeil in. This is what I mean. It's just a dreadful bunch of FPL options. Of course, they can do well in a double game week, but not really that convinced. I would go for a Wolves defender. I think that's very simple. Ake or sideways move from Martin to Odegaard. Oh, Martinelli to Odegaard. That's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think Martinelli to Odegaard is worth it. I could see Martinelli being benched in, this game against Aston Villa in the early kickoff or in Gameweek 25 as well. I think that's a simple one right now. Saka is the better option, but Odegaard is still decent despite his poor form. Botman, Andreas Akanji, bench 1. I'd bench probably Botman from those 3. It's close because I'm actually considering Botman first sub over Andreas Pereira. And even starting him over Ben White. But yeah, I think that's what I do. Yeah, Felix is looking pretty decent right now. I wouldn't be going out of my way to get him in. Saka captain. Alex Moreno's new to Premier League, so won't cope with Starboy Saka. I don't think he started in the recent game, Moreno, but either way, I think Villa will cause problems to Arsenal, unfortunately. I think if Arsenal were showing more of the early season form, I'd back them to win, maybe even comprehensively. But with their recent form and, all the doubts about certain players starting, I'd be a bit concerned. Best time to triple captain. Obviously, I've already used it myself, but, if I still had the chip, I'd probably be using it in a double, well, it's in a double game week. I'd look to use it, but maybe a smaller one. You've got the likes of 29, 34, and 37, which will be big double game weeks. If you're not using a chip in one of those specific game weeks I just mentioned, then maybe one of those could be the answer and solution for you. But there's going to be other double game weeks in between, and we don't know the fixtures yet, so it's difficult for me to say. But I would probably say between Game Week 29 and later in the season. We've got some in 25 and 27. You could use the triple captaincy on Saka in 25 or even Salah, but I think there will be better opportunities later in the season. Should I bench Martinelli for Ake or Andreas? Should I bench Martinelli? No. Maybe for Ake, but I would not bench him for Andreas. I'd probably start Ake. Trippier or Bueno? I'd maybe go for Bueno. But it's kind of a close call. With Trippier, I'd start him over most defenders, really. I think Wolves have a good chance of a clean sheet. So it is a close call. Please choose 3 for this week starting defenders. I would go for Shaw, Badiashile, and Ake. I think I'd bench Trippier from those 4. I'm not so sure if Felix is reliable long-term, and that's what I mean. I wouldn't trust him, completely. I think he's got potential. He could be a great FPL option, especially from Chelsea's ranks, but I don't trust Chelsea to create a lot of chances consistently and to also get over the line and convert the chances. Who should I replace Martinelli with? I'd go for another Arsenal midfielder in Saka or Odegaard. I'd primarily go to Saka. I think he's the best one. Thank you, FPL Diamond. And yeah, as he says, let's keep on smashing the like button. Let's try to get this stream to over 200 likes since we've got 300, 400 people watching, which is greatly appreciated. But let's try to get to over 200 likes and let's keep on smashing the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 19,000 subscribers, then pushing on towards 20k as well. Any replacements for Almiron for 6.3 million? It is a close one. I don't think there's many standouts for me. The likes of Mitoma is going to blank in 25, so I'm not going to recommend him now. 6.3 million or below. I'd probably go for a Wolves or Everton midfielder potentially, which I'm not a big fan of. So they could be pretty decent. Maybe Neves, McNeil. I'd mainly look towards Iwobi or Neves. It just sounds tragic though, to be fair. Is a 2-game punt for Kane to Felix worth it now? Bentancur's injured. It's not, look, I'd be more open to it now, that's for sure, but I'd still keep Kane. I still think he'll do well. Start Ake or Almiron? Ake. Start March or Bueno? Or Bruno? Bruno. Saliba or Ake? Ake. Hey Dylan, made a sideways switch from Martinelli to Saka. At the moment, I wouldn't consider it sideways. Saka's on penalties. He's also far more nailed. Martinelli could be benched very soon, so I think that makes sense. Any news on James and Cucurella? We covered it already. Like we said, they're not going to be in the squad, apparently. Trying not to spam the chat. Mitrovic, Tony, Bruno Fernandes. Who would you bench? So Bruno Fernandes, if you're... Because I'm not sure if you're talking about Enzo Fernandez as well on top of Bruno Fernandes. I'd bench Enzo Fernandez if you have him. If you don't, then from those three, it would be Mitrovic on my bench. So I'd definitely start Bruno and Tony. Bench Martinelli or Nonto? I think I'd still bench Nonto, but I'm not so sure if Martinelli starts. I think he'll be benched potentially. White or Shaw? Definitely Shaw. Almiron or Odegaard? Odegaard. Ake or Shaw to start? I would go for Ake. No, sorry. I'd go for Shaw. Just because no doubts about him starting, more attacking potential, all of that jazz. I'd go for Shaw. Odegaard to Mahrez -4. Already have Saka? No, I don't think it's worth it. Because Odegaard doubles in 25. Mahrez might not start in 24. And if he does, he might not start in 25. So I don't think that's worth it. Who's the best Mitro replacement? Probably Felix at the moment. But ultimately, I would rather have Tony after 25. I wouldn't bring him in right now. But yeah, I think there are better strikers than Felix in the long term. And also don't forget Nketiah, who has been missing chances, but if he does get the nod in 24 and 25, he's still a really good option. Mitoma for me, over Nketiah. Martinelli to Saka for -4. I think it could be worth it, even this week. Because I think Martinelli will be benched, I'd go for it, but... Of course, it can backfire, but ultimately, that hit should pay off in the long term as well, and that's the reason why I did it last week. So yeah, I'd go for it. Welcome Way saying, thoughts on selling one of White or Martinelli? I'd be more inclined to sell Martinelli instead of White. I think there are fewer defender options. Although you could argue for the double game weekers in 25, there are better defenders compared to midfielders, but I'd rather sell Martinelli right now. I think White will come back in the side and Martinelli will drop out. Yeah, that is true, but Aston Villa have been pretty decent under Unai Emery. And honestly, with Odegaard, I don't know, he is a bit of a flat track bully, as you say, but his overall performances against everybody, Everton, Brentford, have just dipped a little bit. I think Brentford was decent performance, but the other games have been pretty poor. Three defenders, pretty simple for me. I'd go for Shaw, Walker, and Badiashile. Buy Kilman as I'll bench him or roll. Well, if you're going to bench him anyway, just roll it. But I would start Kilman. If you did buy him, I would start him. Start Trippier or me. Close one. I could see me doing well. But Trippier. Odegaard or Mitoma? Mitoma. Start Mitoma over Tony or Kane or Odegaard. If I had to do one, it'd be Mitoma over Odegaard. I can't afford Saka. Let me just get this question up again. Should I do Martinelli to Odegaard or roll? I'd roll and then bring Saka in next week if you can, Osama. Mahrez or Mitoma? I think if Mahrez starts, he has a good chance of hauling, but Mitoma's just far more nailed on. There's no doubts about him starting in my mind and all of that. He's obviously been in great form since the World Cup, so I'd probably go for Mitoma. Really close call, though. Yeah, Iheanacho's a good pick. I like him a lot. The fixtures aren't great, but apart from Felix, I'd actually argue Iheanacho is one of my favourite forwards in the game right now. He's always been a bit unlucky because Brendan Rodgers has never given him a serious run in the team since that really good end to the season 2 years ago. Cancelo to Dawson, Kilman, Bueno, and bench Trippier, or roll and do it next week, delay the decision. I would roll and do it next week, and I'd probably go for Kilman in the end. I can see why you're doing it, because you might back Wolves to the clean sheet this week as well, which is completely understandable, Marco. So I think either decision's fine, but I'd rather have more information, do it next week, and start Trippier, who is still the best defender in the game for me. Bruno to Mahrez? No, I wouldn't do it this week. What else do we have? Start Ake or Mitrovic? I'd go for Ake. I'm not making any transfer, Desmond. My only concern would be the bench order, maybe putting Botman first, and also the captaincy, but I think I'm going to stick with this. Would I go Odegaard to Saka from -4? Saka did score last season against Villa in this very fixture, but would I do it for a -4? No, I wouldn't do it for a -4 this week. I would bring Saka in eventually, though, maybe for free next week, but not for a -4 in a game against Aston Villa. Haaland or Mahrez captain, I'd go for Haaland. I'd be more convinced about him starting than Mahrez, so that's what I'd do. Darwin or Felix? Despite the double, I'd actually favour Felix a little bit more. White, Trippier, Kanji, Tarkovsky, which one should I bench? A lot of defender questions this week, of course. To bench one, it'd be Tarkovsky. All right, so Martinelli or Burn this week, and for who? Well, obviously, Martinelli doubles in 25, Burn blanks, but it's not that simple. Martinelli might be benched as soon as 24, and Burn is more of an easy option to bench, let's say. I would sell Martinelli to Saka if you haven't got him already, Wei-Seng, or even Odegaard still. And as for Burn, if you were to go in that direction, I would sell Burn to Kilman or Dawson, which would obviously also be a very good option in 25 as well. So what would I do? If you don't have Saka, I'd do Martinelli to Saka and then bring in Kilman or Dawson for Burn next week. That's what I would do. Play Andreas or Cucurella. Cucurella will not be in the squad apparently, so I think Andreas will be in the squad anyway. Felix for Mitrovic or roll? I think I'd do it. Is downgrading Kane next week for Salah an option? Yeah, I think it is an option, especially with all the injuries Spurs have. No, he definitely isn't nailed, Wei-Seng. You know, if we look at the last 2 games, he hasn't been starting. He's far from nailed at the moment, but I think he'll get his spot back in 24. Captain Rashford or Haaland for 500k rank? Well, Rashford will be the more lower-owned captain. The effective ownership will be lower, but yeah, I think there's a case for both of them. Rashford has the better form as well in all competitions. It's completely up to you. Who do you think scores more points? I still would just go for that, because ultimately, if you go for Rashford and he's got lower ownership and effective ownership, if he gets less points than Haaland, it doesn't matter. You're going to be losing out on rank anyway. So it just depends who you think is, you know, if you think Rashford will score more points, go for him. But if you think Haaland does, don't just go for Rashford for the sake of it. I'm backing Haaland a little bit more. My big issue is Haaland's minutes, and that is what maybe could sway me towards Rashford. The best strike on the 10 million besides Tony? I'd say Iheanacho or Felix. What about Akanji? I think he starts, but he's obviously not as good of an FPL option right now as he was before. And even then, he hasn't got that many points this season. I would go for Ben Mee, actually, over White. I think so. Enzo Fernandez or Nketiah? Nketiah. I don't really like Enzo Fernandez as an FPL option. All the best to you as well. That AIR. All the best to you as well. Apologies for asking. Trippier or Dunk? I'd go for Trippier. It's a close call. I think if it was Stupinian, I'd be more inclined to go for him, but probably Trippier. Yep, Saka is a good captain, but Arsenal have been off form. They're not really looking like scoring much from open play, so I'd just rather go for Rashford or Haaland, to be honest. Since rumours of James out, Aspi or Ake? I'd still go for Ake. Odegaard or Matoma? I would go for Matoma. And as for DN's question, start free of Shaw, Trippier, Aspi and Ake. Well, yeah, I'd basically bench Aspi. Burn next free. Liverpool, blank and City. Yeah, exactly. That's why you can get rid of him now, but I think Saka in for Martinelli has more upside than getting Kilman in for Burn. I would not be surprised if Newcastle kept the clean sheet against Liverpool this week. Let me be quite clear on that. And like I said, you can get rid of him next week anyway for Kilman. So it's just a matter of timing, which players you have or don't have already. If I had to start one, probably Matoma, but it's a close call. I wouldn't want to bench either of them, to be honest. Yeah, I like it, Wei-Seng. I think he scored against Southampton last year, if not the year before that. Yeah, I think so, Ali, but I wouldn't be too sure about it. Greenwood to Felix or Roll? I would do it. I think there's a high upside this week. I'm not really that fussed about getting Salah or not. Obviously, in years gone by, I would have him in my team anyway. But it would be very difficult for me to get Salah in. It would require a downgrade from Harry Kane. And look, I'm open to it, but I wouldn't be completely, locking in a transfer or a plan for Salah right now. Edison or Kepa? I would go for Kepa. Was going to go Rashford captain, but realised he may have reduced minutes like Haaland, Leicester, Barcelona and Newcastle 1 week. Yep, that is true. And I'd rather have Haaland if both get 60 minutes. That is a good point. United have a more congested fixture schedule, you could argue, especially with the Thursday, Saturday/Sunday kind of turnaround. I'd go for Ake. Brighton, attack or Fulham? I'd say Brighton. I'd favour them a bit more. Start free of Bruno, Mahrez, Matoma, Odegaard. It would be Bruno, Mahrez and Matoma. And I'd bench Odegaard. Odegaard versus Andreas, I'd go for Odegaard. Give me an order of these players. White, Almiron, Bueno, Andreas. Botman says JT. I think I gave this earlier, but just to clarify, it would be White first. No. Bueno first, White second. Almiron third. Almiron third? Yeah, Almiron third, Andreas fourth, Botman fifth, but it's a really close call between third and fifth. Kepa or Pope? I would go for Kepa this week. Cancelo to Dawson. I think we went through this marker already, but I think you changed a little bit. So let me just go through at the top. Yeah, I'd delay it to next week, like I said earlier, but I can understand if you were to do it this week. Could it work to wildcard in 27 without free hitting in 28 and still have a good team for 29? Yeah, it can, Magic 69, but it will be difficult to navigate that whilst having a good team to end the season as well. The wildcard for me, despite obviously targeting specific game weeks like the doubles and blanks, you really want a good long-term solution to your team, not booking in transfers and too many hits in the long run. So it can work, but be very careful with that. Use FPL.team and other sites like that to visualize how a wildcard in 27 could work. And obviously, we don't know the full picture yet of, blank game at 28, 32, as well as the doubles in 29, 34, and 37 to really have, a real clear understanding of how all these games will work and how to get the most points possible. So we can all do these provisional plans, but things can change from now until game at 25 when we should find out more about the future doubles and blanks. Struggling to find a way to get to Salah? Yeah, same here. I do agree with that. But then again, I would not want to be getting rid of Kane for a -4 or -8 for Salah, to be quite frank. So I'm quite happy to maybe go without him at the moment. No, not really. Yeah, as you say, he's playing a defensive role, and despite his great assist for Felix the other day, I would not back him. I talked about skipping him heading into that game week. I stand by that. I don't think it's a great FPL option. In UCL Fantasy, it's different with ball recoveries. In FPL, not so much. No, as far as I'm aware, there's no updates. If there is, let me know in the live chat and I'll have a look and we can go through it. Nketiah or Tony? Nketiah, because of the double in 25. For this week, it would be Tony. But in terms of who would I rather have for the next 2, 3, or 4 game weeks, it would be Nketiah. Then going into game weeks 26 and 27, that's when I think from then until the end of the season, Tony's by far the better option. Best captain option, Haaland or Rashford, and I'm probably going for Haaland. Starting Nketiah or Odegaard? Odegaard. Nonto Andreas. I think I'd go for Andreas. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, still Andreas. I think it's a tough call. It is a tough call. Yeah, probably Andreas. Start Kilman or Pinnock? Kilman. White over Ake? I'd go for Ake. I wouldn't captain Tony this week, to be honest. Yeah, I think I would. I'd save the transfer. I am Monson, but I'm not sure if Martinelli starts. That'd be the big issue. All the best to you, Mohammed, as well. We do have 46 minutes still until the deadline, so keep your questions coming. We'll be answering them. We've gone through a lot already. I'm trying to spam the chat. Obviously, thank you, Singh, for dealing with that. Akanji or Emerson on the first bench? I would prioritize Akanji over Emerson. Start Kilman or Pinnock? Kilman. Rashford captain? Not really against that, to be fair, but I'm going for Haaland, I think. Nketiah or Felix? Still Nketiah for the double in 25. For this week, if I had to pick one, it'd be Felix. But looking at the next 2, 3 as a whole, still Nketiah for me. Kilman or Tarkowski? Kilman. Captain Rashford over Haaland? Like I said, I'm not against it. It's really close for me, but I'm going to go for Haaland, especially with both Forest centre-backs being out. Opinion on Felix? Not my favourite forward, but also, if you were looking to buy one this week, it'd be him or Iheanacho, apart from the obvious Harry Kanes and Haalands of the world. Start Perisic or Nketiah? Nketiah. Share to Kilman, thinking about Game Week 25. Yep, looks really good for me. I'd go for it. And also in Game Week 24, you can start Kilman. Hey, Dylan, Trippier or Ake? I'd probably go for Trippier still. Trippier to Tarkowski for the next 3 game weeks. Look, if there's ever a time to get rid of Trippier or any Newcastle asset, it's now. I'm not really against that. But I would probably start Trippier this week and then get rid of him next week and bring Tarkowski in. But it's completely up to you. Yeah, but to be fair, we did say that about Kane against Leicester, and look how that turned out. Of course, I think he will do well, but sometimes football can be a funny game. I'd go for Kepa over Edison. We have gone through that already. Start Bueno or Akanji? Probably Bueno. White, Shaw, Trippier, Stupinian, pick 3. Quite a lot of similar defender questions. Of course, I'll try to go through some different stuff, but basically I would go for Shaw, Trippier, and Estupinian, and bench White. Start Tarkowski over Saliba this game week? Yes, I think so. Replace Almiron with Mitoma? If you're well set up for Game Week 25, then yes, but also bear in mind that Brighton could blank in 28 as well, and there is a small chance of them losing their double in 27. But yes, I prefer Mitoma over Almiron, but having said that, there might be better options for you to buy this week. Well, I think White will come back in the side. Of course, he did lose a spot against Man City, but yeah, I think White comes back in. Let's wait and see what happens. I still prefer Almiron over Enzo, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of Enzo as an FPL option. White to Tarkowski, KDB to Salah, or roll? I'd roll. I'd roll and do it next week, potentially. Yeah, that is the news. Also, Cucurella and the likes of Thiago Silva and Ziyech. And also no Thomas Partey for Arsenal, which is massive. Not from an FPL perspective, but how he affects the defence and Arsenal's chances of winning the game. Hi mate, should I play Ake or Mitrovic? I would go for Ake. Start Lewis, Bueno or Trippier? That is a close one. I think I would go for... I'd go for Bueno, just because I think he'll start. I could be wrong, but that's what I'd go for. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate it. Suggest a Leeds midfielder. With no Rodrigo, it's quite difficult, but... not really a big fan. Sinisterra, if he can nail down a spot, looks pretty good for me, but yeah, at the moment, probably Harrison. I wouldn't go for any of them, to be honest. Get rid of Bruno or roll? I would roll and get rid of Bruno in 25. Trippier, Ake, Shaw, White, Martinelli, bench 1. Probably Martinelli because I think he'll be benched. Start Kilman, Dawson over Almiron? Yes, definitely. Mitoma for Mahrez? I would not get rid of one for the other this week, to be honest. I'd just roll. Start Tarkowski or Ake? I'd go for Nathan Ake. Trippier, Lewis or Bueno? We've gone through that. Bench Cucurella or White? Cucurella will not be in the squad, apparently, so I just go for White. Dawson or Kilman? I think Dawson has more attacking threat, but what I like about Kilman is that he's been nailed on all season. Of course, Dawson's a recent signing, but also Kilman's very good for bonus points. So as a result, I'd go for Kilman. Bueno, White, Ake, Trippier, Shaw, start 3. I would go for Ake, Trippier, and Bueno. And you've got Shaw there as well. I'd go for Shaw, Ake, and Bueno. Nonto or Andreas? Close call, but I think I'd go for Andreas. Imagine Chelsea not winning the game again. It would not be a surprise. I mean, Chelsea have been very inconsistent this season. I think they will win against Southampton, though. I think they're that bad, and you know Chelsea have been better recently. Looking beyond the results, Chelsea have shown some improvements. Mitrovic or White first sub? I would prioritise White, so White over Mitrovic. Is Anthony going to play? Maybe, but the thing is, Man United have a lot of fixtures, as someone rightly pointed out earlier, with Barcelona. You've got the Carabao Cup final, more Premier League games afterwards. Not much of a break. But honestly, Anthony isn't a great FPL option anyway. Even if he hauls this week, it doesn't matter. I still stand by that. Yeah, it looks like James is out. Of course, that's what a reliable source says. I'm not a big fan of Neves, but he has the double in 25. Martinelli could be benched, so it's not a bad transfer this week. Not the best, though. Why is he popular? Because Wolves have the double in 25, play Bournemouth now, and he's also very good from set pieces, so he can get a goal or two from now until the end of the season. Newcastle, Liverpool predictions. I would back... If I had to back one team to win, it would be Newcastle, but I could see a draw. Newcastle are a bit of draw merchants, you could say. I would not be surprised if it was a 0-0 or 1-1, something like that. But to be honest, yeah, because Bruno Guimaraes is out as well, I think I'd go for a draw. Mitro, Andreas, first sub. Based on current form, I'd actually favour Andreas over Mitrovic, and also Mitro isn't injured out. Do you think Zinchenko will start? Yes, but there is a chance that Tierney will. Lewis, Trippier, who to start? Well, it's kind of difficult because Lewis isn't nailed on. I think Lewis will get a start against Forest or Bournemouth, and the way I'm thinking it will go and pan out is he will start against Nottingham Forest. So as a result, I would start Lewis, but it's very risky. No, I don't think he'll be benched. It's a chance they will be subbed off early, and of course he can be benched. There is a possibility, but I think Callum will start. You know, City have now levelled it with Arsenal, but Arsenal still have the upper hand with the game in hand there. So I don't think it makes sense for City to, you know, I know they're facing Forest and Bournemouth, but too much rotation could definitely damage them. I know Alvarez is a competent replacement, but he's also not been in great form recently either. Neves or Sarabia? Not a bad option there to mention Sarabia, but yeah, it's kind of difficult to say. Neves is on penalties, very good from long shots, but apart from that, wouldn't back him too much. I'd say Sarabia if he can nail down a spot in the team, but I'm not so sure if that'll be the case. De Gea or Kepa? It'd be Kepa. Martinelli or Neves? I mean, usually it's Martinelli, but Neves does have the double in 25 as well. So right now it would be Neves, surprisingly. Mahrez, keep or sell? Keep, but I'm concerned about him in the future. Yep, exactly that, Dida. It's the roll and then bring in potentially a Wolves defender in 25. I mean, look, to be fair, I could even get Kilman in this week and start him over Ben White, potentially, something like that. But I want to have more information going into Game Week 25 and also the potential to, you know, get in Salah in the midfield. So I want to leave my options open, basically, and that's why I'm going to roll. Will Akanji start? I think so. Do you think the Cup final would have an impact on the way Newcastle play? Yeah, I mean, that will be the main focus now. They haven't won a trophy in such a long time. And also facing Man United, who were a rival of them in the 90s as well. Yeah, I think there'll be a bit of bitterness. I think, yeah, it could have an impact. But with Newcastle, I wouldn't expect them to rotate too much. You know, Eddie Howe's played a consistent starting 11 in the Cups and in the Premier League. I wouldn't expect too many changes. It could impact, you know, maybe their motivation and stuff. But yeah, still. Thank you, FPL Diamond. As he says, we're literally 35 likes away, or maybe around 30 likes now, from getting to 200. So be sure to keep on smashing the like button. It really helps out the channel. And let's try to get to 19,000 subscribers. We're making great progress already. So thank you very much to everyone who's already subscribed. Martin to Saka? Yes, I would do that. Start Rico Lewis or Martinelli? Probably Rico Lewis. The teams that are blanking next week include Brentford, Brighton, Man United and Newcastle, which we've known for quite some time now. Which two of White, Estupiñán, Andreas and Nonto would you start? Andreas, Estupiñán conflict. I get that. I would start White and Estupiñán. Start Mitoma or Nketiah? I would go for Mitoma. Should I sell Ake for Kilman? I mean, I can understand why you're doing it. Ultimately, yes, I would do that. I would do that. So yeah, I think it's a good transfer. Obviously, it could backfire if Ake gets the nod this week. I've mentioned it earlier, Rashford is a good captaincy option. He is the very best, but unfortunately a certain Haaland exists who faces a Forest side without two of their main centre-backs. Both City and United have a congested fixture schedule over the next week. United have a cup final very soon. So minutes could be managed on both accounts, and I would favour Haaland a little bit more, despite Rashford being the most informed Premier League player since the World Cup. Yeah, Marco, I covered your question earlier, or your comment, and I'm in the same position as you. Start Tarkowski over Akanji? No, I'd start Akanji. Start Rico Lewis or Martinelli? We've gone through that, mate. I'd go for Lewis, try not to spam. You think Shaw will be benched? It's possible, but I don't think so. Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much. Mitrovic or Pinnock? Pinnock. Odegaard for Martinelli this week, or Adam Webster to Tarkowski? Odegaard for Martinelli. Captain Rashford and Trippier bench? I don't mind that. I honestly don't mind that, but it also depends who you bench Trippier for. Walker or White to start? Probably Walker, but based on my kind of predicted 11 for City, I think Rico Lewis will get the nod at right back, so Walker could be in jeopardy there. I don't know that, Arun. I honestly don't know. I wish I knew, then I'd probably do a lot better in FPL. I think he will, but I can't tell you for sure. Cucurella replacement? I'd go for Kilman or Dawson. Burn or White for this week? I would go for White. Yeah. If it was Trippier, I'd go for him, but with Burn versus White, it'd be White. -4 Martinelli for Saka? Yes, I think I would, because I think Martinelli would be benched either in 24 or in one of the games in 25. Trippier, Robertson or Sinchenko? For this week, it'd be Trippier. Start White, Trippier or Mitrovic? It would be Trippier. Mitro Pinnock, we went through. Start Odegaard or Mitoma? A commonly asked question, I'll say the same thing, I'd go for Mitoma. Odegaard or Akanji? I'd go for Odegaard. Trippier or Romero? Trippier. Almiron to Odegaard or roll? I would roll, especially if you don't have Saka and you want a means to go to Saka in 25. But Odegaard for Almiron is a really good transfer in 24. Who would you bench between KDB, Odegaard and Nketiah? Probably Nketiah. Bench Mitoma or Mahrez? Neither, mate. Honestly, I'd bench neither, but if I had to pick one, it would be Mahrez with the assumption that there's a chance of him being benched in 24 or 25. Podro for Trippier? Not really feeling it right now. I was marking Podro as a potentially really good option for Spurs until the end of the season, but had a really poor debut against Leicester. Spurs have been awful recently defensively. They've got no Lloris, no Bentancur. I would not go for any Spurs defender right now, despite the fixtures. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate it. Again, Mitoma or Tony priority? I mean, they both blank in 25, but Mitoma is more likely to blank in 28 as well. Yet again, Tony could also be suspended. He's only 2 yellow cards away from suspension. He's been getting a lot of yellow cards recently. So it's not an easy answer. I think Mitoma's been the better option since the World Cup as well. So I think Mitoma might have more pros, really, compared to Tony. I'd actually, in terms of priority, the reason why I'd go for Tony in the end, assuming he doesn't get suspended, is because there are fewer fours to choose from. With the midfield, I think there are so many. So I'd probably go for Tony. Odegaard, Burn, Trippier, who needs to be first sub? Odegaard would be the best of those three, then Trippier, then Burn. Badiashile, Tarkowski, or Kilman to buy? It would be Kilman. Also have Patterson. Should I go for Tarkowski? I'd say so, because Patterson, I think, came off injured, as I think Mandip said earlier in the stream, during an under-21s game. Let me just double-check that for confirmation, but I think that was the case. So let me just double-check that. Yeah, he was supposed to play in the under-21s, yeah, I think he came off a bit early. It's all down to a late fitness test. So look, I think Patterson will be fine for Game Week 25, but will he start both games? I'm not so sure. Nketiah, White, and Patterson is my bench order. Starting Walker and Trippier over White. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that looks pretty good. What else do we have? Martial to Joao Felix. Yes, I'd do that. And thank you very much, Alexander. Likewise. I'd bench Odegaard from those three. And I'd start Mahrez and Mitoma. Botman to Kilman or Roll. I'd do the transfer, but if... It depends on your situation, because if you don't have Salah and you want a means to go to him in Game Week 25 and stuff like that, having 2 free transfers could be really impressive and really important in Game Week 25, should I say. So, look, I'd do it. I'd do it right now, and Kilman could start even now in 24. I wouldn't say it's completely necessary branding. It would be ideal, but having 9 or 10 of the key players is what you ultimately want to have, and you don't need to go out of your way with hits to get to an 11. So it's a good question you ask. Yeah, that is not a surprise. Reece James is left out of the squad, apparently, according to the news we got yesterday. And exactly, yeah, we went through that as well already. FPL Josh, no Silva, Cucurella, Ziyech, a 2. So yeah, that will be quite interesting to see. Bench 1, it would be Nketiah. So yeah, hopefully you got that. SOCLH. Nketiah or Douglas Luiz? Nketiah. Rashford for captain, last 6 home games, 6 goals. Like I said, I don't mind it at all. It's between him and Haaland, and it's a really close call. I'm going for Haaland, but I would not be against Rashford. I was considering it in my team selection video as well. Probably Mitoma, but I wouldn't want to bench Mahrez against Forest. Happy, says FPL Josh. Fair enough. No Thiago Silva could hinder our Kepa clean sheet hopes, I fear. Yeah, I agree. Best alternative for Almiron? It'd still be Saka or Odegaard for me, if you don't have them already. If you do, it becomes a bit trickier, because I'm not a big fan of the Wolves Everton assets for Double Gameweek 25. Then you could consider Gakpo or something, but I'm just not really feeling it. So it's kind of a tricky one. Is Ben White starting? I'm not sure, but in my opinion, he will come back in the side. Akanji or Tarkowski? This week it'd be Akanji. Martinelli to Salah, I have the money, or roll the transfer? Well, tricky one, because if Martinelli starts, I would back him over Salah this week, but long term, I think Martinelli will be benched, whether it's now in 25, and ultimately Salah will be the one you want in 25. So, I'd probably do it now. Just because I think Martinelli will be benched, but it's a close one, really close one. Yeah, obviously not ideal. Really quick turnaround, which obviously I just don't get. You know, literally Arsenal played on Wednesday night. They're playing again. The only positive about that is that Arsenal will be rearing to go to make amends for their poor last 2 weeks. Really, February's always a bit of an odd month for Arsenal, so I'm not surprised by what's happening. Hi Dylan, bench Mitra or Tarkowski? I would bench Mitrovic this week. Welcome, Seb Gold. Good to see you. A lot of 5 a.m.ers here in New York to watch your stream. I'm very tempted to captain Rashford over Haaland. I do not blame you, mate. Rashford's the most informed player in the world, arguably. And yeah, any thoughts if you've not covered the topic as yet? We have covered it. It's really close. You know, Rashford's in the better form, but Haaland obviously is facing a Nottingham Forest side without two of the main centre-backs. Both City and United have a congested fixture schedule. Man United have a cup final to look forward to, which they'll prioritise, not to mention the Europa League second leg. Realistically, United are not winning the league, but they can win the Europa League and Carabao Cup. So I think those two will be the priority for them. So I would not be surprised if Rashford came off early. And also, let's not forget, Leicester have been good recently. I know they're conceding goals, but they could cause problems to United and they could, you know, push United to the back foot. And that could also play a part in how the game pans out as well. So it's a tricky one, but I would not be against Rashford captain over Haaland in all essence, basically. Rate Liverpool assets for Double Gameweek 25. Not a big fan of any of them, even Salah, but it'd be Salah first. Probably Darwin second, Trent, Robertson third. But to be honest, look, despite Liverpool being poor defensively, I would favour Liverpool defenders over Nunez. So Salah first, Trent/Robertson second, Nunez third, and probably Gakpo fourth. Not a big fan of all of them, really. Alisson's also not bad, but I wouldn't be making a goalkeeper transfer, especially for a hit. I would bench Odegaard, green arrow. Fernandes to Salah in Gameweek 25. I wouldn't do it now. White or James, who do you start? Well, James is in the squad apparently, so I just go for White. Apparently Trossard is going to start. Yeah, I would not be surprised. Let me know where you got that from, Juntal, though. I'd be very curious to see, so we can go through that lineup together or the news together, because I haven't been able to see Twitter yet. So let me actually have a quick look at Instagram and Twitter, see if there's anything. That would be good to see. So far I don't see anything, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen anything just yet, so be sure to put it in the live chat. Let's see if I can get any news on the Arsenal lineup. I'm going to be checking. Yeah, I haven't seen anything just yet. Let's see, what else? Latest tweets. No lineups right now. The Trossard is expected to start, and you know, I would back him to start over Martinelli, although there is the possibility of him going in for Nketiah as well. But yeah, right now we haven't got any league lineups for Arsenal. For Chelsea, I'm guessing we do. And of course, we have covered the news anyway that we got yesterday from Sam. But yeah, it looks like James is out of the squad. The same goes for Cucurella and all the others. But yeah, let me go back to your questions and maybe I'll see any links there as well. Kane captain easy. It's time to bounce back. Spurs win every game when Conte's not around. It's not that simple though, and also you've got Haaland and Rashford facing decent, you know, opponents in terms of poor defences, and Rashford in particular has been sensational. Start Trent. It depends who over. I'm not really backing a Liverpool clean sheet against Newcastle. Is Nketiah benched? It's possible. I think it will be Martinelli benched. I would personally prefer Martinelli starting on the left with Trossard up front, and they can interchange. The same goes for Saka. I would also bring in Tierney for Zinchenko, and then you can maybe possibly go for Zinchenko in the midfield for Xhaka, and then White in for Tomiyasu. But I don't see that starting 11 for Arsenal. Arteta has been a bit stubborn with his starting 11, and it has cost Arsenal a little bit. I think there have been games where Arsenal should have won anyway, and the players just haven't been able to fulfill the plan. Like against City, I think Arteta set up pretty well from the beginning, but then maybe failed to change, after Pep's changes during half time. So it's kind of both the players and the manager are at fault there, but I would make some changes for sure. Would you start Ake over any of the defenders in your team? Yes, over Ben White. And possibly over Trippier as well. Thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. Trippier, Perisic, Ake, Kilman, Tarkovsky. Which free to play? And bench Odegaard or Nketiah? I would bench Nketiah. I think Odegaard is more nailed and likely to start in Gameweek 24, and also the better FPL option in general. In terms of the free defenders to start, it would be Kilman, Ake, and Trippier. So hopefully you got that, Aaron. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hey, mate, worth playing Almiron over Trippier or Bueno? Yes, it is possibly worth it, especially if you're not backing a Newcastle clean sheet. But I would start Trippier and Bueno over Almiron. Odegaard for Saka. I think Saka is worth getting in for Odegaard, but only for free. I will not do it for a hit this week. Bench 2 from Bueno, Trippier, Ake, Shaw, White. as we've said before, it probably would be White benched and probably Trippier. What do you think of getting in Mudryk or Felix? I'd be more inclined to get Felix, but having said that, I wouldn't be going out of my way to get either of them in, because ultimately I would want Tony, Haaland and Kane long term, provided Tony doesn't get suspended. And I just don't trust Chelsea offensively, to be quite frank, despite their improvements. I'd play Fernandes over Odegaard if I had to pick one, Abhishek. Start Ake or White, I'd go for Ake. Start Trippier over Akanji, Shaw or Gabriel over Gabriel. Would you start Reece James over any defenders in your team? No, because Reece James isn't in the squad. Thank you, FPL Diamond. And yeah, we're very close to 200. Be sure to smash the like button. Let me know if you are the 200th liker, even 199th. It's all appreciated. Welcome, Esteban. Saludos desde Colombia. ¿Pondrías a Estupiñán o White? Es bastante cerca, pero yo pondría a Estupiñán. Gracias por la pregunta, Esteban. Joao Felix captain, what do you think? No, I would not go that far. Obviously, if you're backing him, then why not? Obviously, always back your gut, but I personally just don't see it. I don't back Felix over Rashford, Haaland, and even a few others that would make for better captaincy options than Felix, in my opinion. Would you start Chilwell over Perisic? Yes, I definitely would. Start Ake or White? I'd go for Ake. Captain Haaland or Kane? Kane is still a good option, but I'd go for Haaland. Bench one, Ake, White, Shaw, Nketiah, Mahrez, and Trippier. I'd probably bench Trippier. No, sorry, I'd bench White. It's close between him and Nketiah and Trippier, but I'd bench White. Start Andreas or Mings? I would start Andreas. Iheanacho a good option? Yes, he is. I actually like him a lot. From the Leicester ranks, it would be Maddison first, Iheanacho second. Bruno to Mitoma to fund, Martinelli to Saka for a hit? Next week. I wouldn't do it this week. I think Bruno could do really well. And also, I'd go for another midfielder as a result, because Mitoma blanks in 25. With Martinelli appearing benched, Kane to Felix and Martinelli to Saka of -4. Where did you get this, Finlay? If you have seen a reliable source tweet this, then be sure to let me know. Put any links in the live chat and I'll go through it. I think Martinelli will be benched, personally. Bench Kane to Felix. Martinelli to Saka -4. I can see why you're doing it, but getting rid of Kane from -4 does not sit right with me. If that's your only way to do Martin to Saka, then yes, go for it. But otherwise, I would just keep Kane. I still think he's the best option in the game besides Haaland and Trippier. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate it. And good luck this week. And I'll see you in the next stream as well. Andreas or Bueno? Probably Bueno. Would you start Mitoma or Tony? Probably Tony. I have a sneaky feeling KDB doesn't start. Yeah, it's possible. I think either 24 or 25 will be benched. So I agree with that. I feel really tempted to get Salah this week. Look, if you have a feeling you'll be benched and you really want Salah, go for it. Don't let me talk you out of it. It's just, in my opinion, you know, with the assumption that De Bruyne has a chance of starting, which he does, of course. If he does, I think he outscores Salah. And that will be the big concern with me. But if you think that way, go for it. You have to back your gut and your thought process. Start Kilman or Shaw. I think Kilman is more likely to get a clean sheet. I'd go for him. I'm benching Haaland. Come on, mate. Really? I wouldn't do that. Mohammed, thank you very much. Start Mitrovic or Andreas. I'd go for Andreas right now. Thoughts on Robertson? Good option for 25, but that's the only reason I'd bring him in, really. Yeah, Jazabi, also no Cucurella, Thiago Silva, which will be the big news for me, and no Ziyech. That is what we got yesterday, according to Sam. First sub, Malpai or Perisic. I mean, I just don't rate Malpai as an asset. I'd rather go for Perisic in general. Bench one, Odegaard, Mitoma, and Nketiah. It would be Nketiah bench. I was speaking Spanish. Buy Kilman or roll and play White. I'd roll and play White and buy Kilman next week. Although I don't mind Kilman this week because he plays Bournemouth at home. I would go for Almiron this week. Who would you start out of these 10 players to start? Jesus. Ake, Gabriel, Trippier, Botman, Shaw, Mitoma, Odegaard, Saka, Rashford, Kane, Haaland, Mahrez. Is that an 11? So 2, 3... Oh my god, that's going to be a tough one. So I have to bench 3, do I? Oh god. Alright, so I would bench Gabriel. Oh, it's probably defenders that I'm going to be benching here. So I'd bench Gabriel and Botman. The other one to bench would be Odegaard. I think that's what I do, Heel. Hopefully you got that. According to FPL South on Twitter, he said Trussard and White start. That is what I would expect, but let me check that. Thank you, Sudundra. Let me see how reliable he is. I don't think I've heard the name before, so let me have a look. FPL South. Hopefully it's a reliable source. Yeah, I think he has a bit of credit in the bank. Okay, so yeah, I can bring this up on screen, so I appreciate that, Sudindra. I'll bring it up now. So, according to FPL South, Trossard and White are going to start. So, there you go. So, let me know what you think of that. And anything else I want to show you? Price changes we've gone through. Remember, this is just highlighting the players that are about to go up in price. Haaland, Mahrez, you know, pretty close to it. I mean, I wouldn't really expect it to happen today. I think the price falls, though. I mean, look at this. We've got a few more added to the list now, but Mitrovic and Almiron should be going down very soon. Let's go back to the team. But thank you, Sudindra. I do appreciate that. Let's see what else we have. Mitoma or Mahrez. Don't bench any of them, mate, honestly. But if I had to pick one, it would be Mitoma to start. Morning Dylan, bench one. Ake, Mitrovic, Shaw, Odegaard, Bruno, and Nketiah. Probably Mitrovic. Do you think Ake starts, though? Yes, but I'm not sure about it. And maybe start Gabriel over Odegaard? I'd start Odegaard over Gabriel. Play Ben White and Lewis or Mitrovic for one? I'd play Ben White and Lewis. Tony or Nketiah? This week, Tony. And Odegaard or Mitoma? Mitoma. Should I start Rico Lewis over White? Yes, I think I would. Akanji, Ake, White, Trippier, Andreas, Benchu. Probably Andreas. White or Akanji? Akanji. Bueno, Ake, Bueno. Do I start White or Martinelli? I'd go for White just because I think Martinelli is benched and White will start, which is what I've said all stream and also in the week leading up to this, but I could be wrong. Bench free from Trippier, Bueno, Robertson, Andreas, Mitrovic, Almiron. I would bench Mitrovic, Andreas Pereira, and Robertson. Trippier, Martinelli, Fernandez, or Kilman to bench. From those four, I would bench Martinelli. Bueno Ake, we literally highlighted your question, JFits, so be sure to replay the chat a little bit. Odegaard or March to start? Odegaard. Is Martinelli benched? I'm not sure if the source is too reliable, but I will maybe trust it, and it does go in line with what I think. I'd say he is benched, but I can't tell you for sure. We don't know for sure. If it was a completely reliable source that I can trust, you know, I've seen them, you know, give accurate news before, then yeah, I'd say he is benched, but I would take it with a pinch of salt, potentially. Almiron or White? White. Start one, Trippier, Lewis, and Zinchenko. Probably Lewis. Welcome, random YouTube user. Start Andreas or Trippier? I'd go for Trippier. Ahmed, free to start. We've got a lot of these questions today. I'd go for Kilman, Shaw, and Ake. Yeah, JFits, once again, I don't know why you ask a question without even listening to the answer. I'm sorry, you're going to have to be timed out. Ake or Gabriel to start? Ake. Ferguson or Nonto? Question. Probably Ferguson. The thing is, does he start? And he could come on for 1 pointer. At least with Nonto, you know he's going to, you know, be in the get-go in the starting lineup. Probably go for Nonto as a result. Kepa or Sanchez? Kepa. Thoughts on going KDB to Salah this week? KDB could be benched, and as a result, it's a good move. But if he does start, I'd back De Bruyne to outscore Salah. So I'd save it for next week. I have Odegaard, Saka, Mahrez, Mitoma, Rashford, Kane, Haaland, and Nketiah. One has to be benched. Probably Nketiah for me. Already have Trippier, have Castagna, Botman, or James as my third defender. Play one of them. Well, I would normally say James, but it looks like he's benched. I'd bring in Tarkowski for Botman in your situation because Castagna, I don't see a clean sheet. Botman, I mean, facing Liverpool, maybe, but yeah, with James out, I think a defender transfer is worth it, and I'd bring in Kilman personally or Dawson, but if you want Tarkowski, I'd do that and bring him in for Botman. Start Trent and Robertson. I don't see a clean sheet for Liverpool. It's possible, but I wouldn't be backing them really. So yeah, it's up to you if you want to do that. I wouldn't do it personally. Yeah, honestly, that spamming is just way too much. Bye-bye. Bueno or White? I would go for Bueno. Pope or De Gea? Probably De Gea this week. I'm not sure, Amit, but I think he will be benched. Let's wait and see if these leaks are true. I'm not so sure. I haven't seen them before. Do I roll or sell Martial now? Depends who you sell him for and how that influences your future transfer plans. But Martial's definitely a sell, whether it's now or in 25. No, I've not made any changes to my team, Varial. Who do I start? Me, Estupinian, Nonto, or White? From those four, I'd probably start Ben Mee. It's between him and Estupinian. Tarkovsky or Gabriel? Gabriel. Start Trippier or Gabriel? Trippier. Mitoma or Mitrovic? Mitoma. Tony, Darwin, and Haaland, and 2.2 million in the bank. What would you do? Let's go back to it. I'd keep things as they are, and then maybe next week you can get rid of Tony for Nketiah if you don't have an Arsenal, or if you have an Arsenal slot available, should I say? I think so, FPL Josh. I mean, look, even Rashford isn't going to be completely nailed on for minutes as well, with the Carabao Cup final very soon too. Yes, but maybe next week. And also Mahrez could be benched in another 24, 25. So you're on the right track, but Fernandes to Mahrez this week, I wouldn't do it. I think Fernandes could outscore him anyway. Barrel, we went through your question already. Is Cookrad on the bench? Apparently he's not in the squad. The same goes for James and a few others. Not really, Soldier Boy. I don't... Look, I like looking at the models, the predicted points, and fixture ticker, but that doesn't influence my decision-making too much. So, no, not really. My main reasoning is because Nottingham Forest don't have two of the main centre-backs available, and also both United and Man City have a congested fixture schedule, and I think Haaland will start, get 60-70 minutes, and do enough. Look, I am still thinking about Rashford captain. I might even switch it, but I'm not really thinking about the algorithm in terms of that decision. Ream or Kilman? I'd go for Kilman. Tarkovsky or Aurier? Tarkovsky. Good morning. Should I sell KDB to get Mahrez? No, because both of them could be benched in 24-25, and you could be... It could backfire, basically. Bench Andreas or Nketiah? I'd bench Andreas. Bench Martinelli for Andreas or Bueno? For Bueno, if you had to do one. Bench order, Trippier, Martinelli, Zinchenko. It'd be Trippier first, Zinchenko second, Martinelli third. Kane, Rashford or Haaland for captain? It's between Haaland and Rashford for me. And at the moment I'm going for Haaland, but I'm very conflicted about it. I might even make a late switch. Since White starts, which two to start between Bueno, Trippier and White? It would be Bueno and Trippier still for me. But if you go for White, I don't really blame you. Start Kepa or Edison, it would be Kepa. Raya over Kepa? I'd say so, yeah. It's close, but I'd go for it, especially with Thiago Silva missing out. Haaland or Mahrez will be benched. Let's wait and see. I mean, it's possible. I think Mahrez is more likely to be benched than Haaland. We went through the MT. What else do we have? ¿Cambiarías a Mahrez o Odegaard por Joao Felix? No sé, porque también tienes que sacar un delantero para Joao Felix, porque no es un mediocampista en el Premier League, en FPL, como es en Champions League Fantasy, así que no sé con eso. Creo que mantendría a Odegaard y Mahrez y no compraría a Joao Felix en este momento. Rico Lewis start? I think so. Bench Akanji or White? I'd bench White. Sell Martinelli or save transfer and have 2 free transfer next week? I'd save and have 2 free transfers next week, but there is a chance that Martinelli's benched. No, I think I'd start White. Should I sell... What? I'm not sure who that is, mate, Carlos. Views on Liverpool? Still not convinced. I'm not really in a fuss or in a rush to get them in for 25. So, yeah, I think Salah's a good option for Gameweek 25, but wouldn't really want him beyond this period. I'd say Shaw still for me, Andy. Kane to Joao Felix? No. White or Estupinian? Estupinian. Nope, no transfer for me this week. Why are people starting Bueno? I mean, this is the thing. He is still a doubt. I don't think he'll start in 20, like both, you know, all the games basically in 24 and 25. But I think he will start in this game specifically. I think that's why. And Aït Nouri had a poor game the other day. Should I bring in Salah for De Bruyne? In 25, not in 24, in my opinion. Mitoma or March, I'd go for Mitoma. Odegaard or Nketiah to bench, I'd bench Nketiah. Start Alisson or Kepa, I'd go for Kepa. Once again with Liverpool, I'm not really a big fan of them. Despite their win against Everton, I still think they're poor. I need to see much more first. I don't know. I think he is, but I'm not sure about these links or, you know, these leaks. I haven't seen them too much in the past. Bring Alisson or Kepa. We've covered that already. Start Trippier or Ferguson. Trippier. Mitoma or March. We covered. Anything else? Anything new? Trippier or Ake. probably Ake. It's a close one, though. I really want to bench Trippier. You know, I'm going for Trippier. I'd go for Trippier there as well, MT. Botman on my bench for Tarkowski. Yeah, I think that sounds right. Pope or Sanchez? I would go for Sanchez. I'm so confused which two to start. I would go for Mitoma and KDB. Play Fernandes or White. Fernandes. Is Grealish a good option? No, he's still not a good goal scorer. Man City team news? No. That's obviously that game's at 3 PM, so we're not going to find out, I think. We've only got Arsenal news potentially, and Chelsea, it looks like. Start Mitrovic or Mitoma. Mitrovic to Felix. Yeah, I'd go for it. My defence is a Kanji Bueno me. I'm at risk. Potentially, but it's fine for now, and you can always make a transfer next week and bring in an Everton defender, as an example. I would play Nketiah there, Plymmy. Any good mids to get other than the Arsenal mids? I mean, I like Mahrez, but he's a really big risk for 24 and 25. I don't like the Wolves and Everton midfielders. So really it's just Salah for the double game week, but it's all a question of timing and funds. Is Silva out? It looks like it. Bench Mbumo or Mahrez or Odegaard or Mitoma? It's between Odegaard and Mbumo for me. Obviously, Mahrez could come on for 1 point, which would be very frustrating, but I'd probably bench Odegaard, funnily enough, which sounds crazy. Joao Felix for Eddie? No, because Eddie has a double in 25. The only way I would do that is if you're looking to bring in Saka in the midfield, but otherwise, I don't think it's worth it. Let's pray Navas saves the world. Let's wait and see. Edison or Kepa? Kepa for me, Farhad. Anything else? Welcome, Harry. Hi, Dylan, once again. Have 2 free transfers. I have no idea what to do. 0 in the bank. Okay to burn a transfer. If you don't want to make a transfer, simply put, then yes, it's okay to do it. But you might have something, you know, there might be something in your team to do, even if it's Water Forster, something as ridiculous as that. So be it. It is something. It could save you the extra 0.1 million that you need later on. You never know. Who's dropped for Arsenal, do you think? I'd say Martinelli and Tomiyasu. I would also like to see Sinchenko midfield and Tierney coming in and stuff like that, but I don't see it happening. I would also like to see Nketiah benched, but I think it'll be Martinelli making way. Do you think Odegaard or Nketiah has a high ceiling this week? Odegaard, and that's why I would bench Nketiah if I had to pick one. Start Nketiah or Nonto? Nketiah. Play 2 of Ake, Martinez, Tarkowski, Martinelli. It would be Ake and potentially Tarkowski, just because I think Martinelli is benched. Thoughts on Gakpo next week? Not really a big fan. Of course, if he impresses against Newcastle, I'll reconsider, but he has to put in a big performance for me to consider him, I think. Do you think Martinelli starts? No. Nketiah to Felix? Like I said, I'd only do that if it's your way to get Saka. Otherwise, I just keep Nketiah. Almiron or Mitoma? Mitoma. Which two would you start out of Ake, Trippier and Bueno? It would be Ake and Bueno. Who to bench, Saka, Odegaard or March? It would be March. Sí, es mi equipo final. Try not to copy. That would be my advice. Cucurella is not in the squad, apparently. I would go for Walker. Martinelli to Odegaard for a -4. It might be worth it, but look, long term it's worth it, I think, and ultimately I would do it, but it can backfire still, even with all the rumours of Martinelli benched. Me or White? I'd go for Ben Mee. Bueno going to start? I think so, I don't know. Play Nonto or White? I'd go for Ben White. Pope or Sanchez says Oli? I would go for Sanchez. Empieza tres, Andrés, Bueno, Ake, Martinelli. Yo pondría Bueno, Ake y Andreas, porque no creo que va a jugar Martinelli. Start Almiron or Martinelli? With the assumption that Martinelli's benched, I go for Almiron. Mitrovic to Felix, free transfer with another free transfer left. Yeah, I think so. That looks good. Martinelli to Odegaard. Yeah, especially for free. Looks good. Start Bueno, Botman or Tarkowski. I would go for Bueno. Bench Ferguson or Andreas. I mean, normally I'd bench Andreas here, but I'm not sure if Ferguson starts. Really comes down to if you think Ferguson starts. If you do, I'd go for him. Who would I start, Almiron, White or Martinelli? I'd go for White. Roll or trade out Martinelli? Depends who you can bring in for Martinelli. If you could do Martinelli to Saka, I'd do it now. Which teams do you think will keep a clean sheet? Tough one, but I'd say Man City, Chelsea, although I'm a bit more concerned now with Thiago Silva out. I'd also go for Wolves. I think Wolves are the most likely on paper this week, and maybe Brentford as well. Bench Trippier or Nonto? I'd bench Nonto. Walker or James? James is not in the squad, so I think I'd go for Walker, simply put. Zinchenko, Shaw, or Robertson, who to start? It would be Shaw. Any other questions? White or Tarkowski? I'd go for Ben White. I think Akanji starts. I'm benching Kepa, Odegaard and White. Yeah, it can backfire. That could easily be a 15 points a bench, but so be it. You might have a really good starting 11. We've covered that on the back. Try to listen, please. Mahrez or Tony? If Mahrez starts, I think he's the better option, but I'm not sure if he does. So I just go for Tony. Don't bench either of them, though. Trust me. Start 1, Bueno or Ayling? Bueno. Mudryk or Nketiah? Nketiah. Would you advise to start Chalobah in Chelsea defence? He has a good chance here. So yeah, I think he could be a decent option. Start Barnes or White? I would go for White. White or Bueno to start? Bueno. Haaland bench, says Manchester City. Where have you seen that? Honestly, I don't mind if he is benched, and if he doesn't come on at all, it means I have a different captain, but let's wait and see. Yeah, I like that. Libano, good luck with it. I'd rather go for Bueno this week. Welcome to Barella. Me or Trippier? I'd go for Ben Mee. Mitoma or Odegaard? Mitoma. Mudryk or Nketiah? Nketiah. We've gone through this. Captain Rashford, I like it. I'm also considering a late switch there. Bueno or White? No need to put caps. Same with everyone else like J Ski. I would go for Bueno. Bring in Nonto and bench Martinelli or roll? Bring in Nonto. I mean, yeah, I'd roll. That looks fine. KDB start? Honestly, not sure. Haidel and rumours suggest that Nketiah will be benched and not Martinelli. Where did you see this? Like I said, there's so many different and conflicting reports, and if that's the case, then I do like Martinelli against Villa. Thank you very much, Jay Singh. Is Trossard starting? I think so. Either for Martinelli or Nketiah. There are conflicting reports. I want to see on Twitter, you know, and get see what's up here. Let's see. I'm not sure if I muted this FPL self account before because they got something wrong. I don't know. I need to double check that. I'm not sure exactly, but I would take that with a pinch of salt. Either way, let's check if we got any Arsenal lineup news. We've got 2 minutes left for the deadline as well. So, you know what? Because obviously some of you might have some last-ditch questions, I'm going to go through them and then go through the any potential team news. Mitrovic or White first sub? I think White. I think I answered this already, Sidindra. For me, White over Mitrovic. So I'd rather have White first sub over Mitrovic, if that makes sense. Maybe Cookie. Like I said, I'm not sure if he starts. Bueno or Trippier? I'd probably go for Bueno just in case, but it's a kind of a risky one. Only one free transfer. Should I do Castagna to Tarkowski? If you need a defender this week, then yes. But I'd rather go for Kilman. Odegaard for me, Omabek. Start Perisic, Botman or Kilman? It would be Kilman. No doubts about that. Yeah, I would like to see that as well, Tyrone. I'm not sure if that will happen, though. I think there's too many changes. Bench one of White, Ake, Trippier and Shaw. It would be White. Martin to Odegaard or roll. I would make the transfer, Meet. Yeah. I prefer to start 2 defenders, 3 strikers, and 5 mids, but it's impossible. Yeah. Especially this season with a lack of options in the defenders. You know, not many goal scoring or assist threats apart from Trippier. Bruno to Mahrez or Martin to Mahrez? Martinelli. And you can always get rid of Bruno next week for maybe Salah. White for me, Ayub. Nketiah or Mitoma? It'd be Mitoma. Do you think Martinelli will be benched? Yes. Either him or Nketiah. I'm not sure. There's conflicting reports, but let's wait and see. I would like to see Martinelli start with Trossard and have a dynamic front three, but I don't know. Is there a Wolves predicted lineup? No, I don't think so. Mitro or Bueno? Bueno. Ake or White? I would go for Ake. Bueno or Trippier and triple captain Rashford? I wouldn't triple captain Rashford this week. It's a good opportunity. It's not a bad idea, but I think there'll be better opportunities later in the season. Bueno or Trippier, it'd be Bueno just because I think he'll start. I might be wrong about that. Odegaard, Omabeg, once again, we highlighted your comment. I answered it already. I'd go for Odegaard. It's a very simple one anyway. I think I'll do Lissandro to Kilman and start him over White. Also a double Gameweek player for next week. Yeah, that makes complete sense. If I were to bring in a defender this week, it would be Kilman or Dawson. So that looks really good. Yeah, exactly, Singh. And we have gone past the deadline. Let's see if I can get any Arsenal news First sub Malpai or Botman, it would be Botman. Start Mitro or Andreas, it would be Andreas. Start Nonto or Gakpo, Mount, it would be Nonto. Out of those three, it's a close one. I'm not a big fan of any of them, FPL-wise. Yep, we are locked in, and it's all done. Start Ake or White, it would be Ake. We went through this. Yep, John Donner, we're locked. Same with you, Cannon Fodder. Trippier or Bueno. We've got that question quite a lot today. I probably would have gone for Bueno, but honestly, it is risky. Thank you, Diogo. I'm seeing on Twitter, Haaland might be benched. Just have to hope he doesn't come on for a one-pointer. But I was considering a late captaincy switch to Rashford. Bench Trippier for Rico Lewis. Yep, fair enough. That isn't really a bad idea. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Soldier Boy and Sudhindra. I think he will, but there's still a doubt with the injury that he has. And he hasn't been the same for the last 2-3 months. Best replacement for Cucurella? Gilman or Dawson. Thank you, Omabek, and thank you to El Artista. Thank you, Seb Gold, and good luck, Wei Seng. Even though I don't really wish for a Kane haul, but good luck. Thank you, Will. Any Everton midfielder to consider? I'm not a big fan, but Iwobi or McNeil would be the best ones, which just goes to show what we have on offer. Yep, Soldier Boy, let's wait and see. This week was a red arrow for me, from 77k to 90k, and the main reason was benching Shaw for Botman. That was that hurt, and also benching Andreas. Thank you, D Hunter. Likewise, I started Tarkovsky over Bueno. Whoops. I mean, look, Bueno might be benched, so it's not the worst idea in the world, potentially. Thank you, Libano, and big up Lebanon. Thank you, Parlo. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, David. Hope you have a good week as well. Haaland captain might be fear of missing out. Could do something off the bench. Good luck, everyone. Good luck to you as well, Harry. Why would Pep bench Haaland, please? I don't know. Maybe he just likes making the league difficult for himself. No idea, but I think he'll start. Good luck, everyone. Going to be a strange game week, I feel. Yep. There could be some surprise benchings like De Bruyne, Mahrez, even Haaland himself, of course, but let's wait and see. Good luck, Vigard, and thank you very much as well. Spurs form forced me out of captaincy switch to Kane. Let's hope their midfield turns up. Yeah, I was considering Kane as a captain going into this week, but the last week changed things with Bentancur being injured. Time is off, 1 million mark this week. Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough, Weiseng. Mucha suerte para vos también, Esteban. Diogo, thanks, Dylan. Are you doing a knee-jerk live stream on Sunday? Potentially. If not, it'll be later in the week, maybe on the Monday, but I'll let you know. Depends how things go. If I have time to do it tomorrow, then I will. Thank you, LFC. Thank you, Soldier Boy, as always. Lilovac as well. Sonny, what's your thoughts on Martinelli to Trossard? I still would prefer Odegaard and Saka from the midfield ranks, but if Trossard can nail down that starting position, I would like him a lot. You know, in terms of recent game weeks, he's been the most lively Arsenal player, whether he comes off the bench or starts. Apart from the Everton game, he looked impressive against City. You know, when he started in the FA Cup, looked very good against Brentford when he came on, changed the game, and also against United, he played a big part in the winner. I started Shaw over Shaw. Fair enough. I would have gone for Shaw myself, but let's see. I might be wrong. Thank you, D Hunter. I appreciate that. Thank you, More. Best of luck to you as well. I've started Andreas over Martinelli. Makes sense, especially if Martinelli is benched. Good luck to you as well, Heel. Fear of missing out made me choose Haaland. I think Rashford will have the best week. Yeah, but that's the thing. If you thought Rashford would do better, I would definitely would have recommended to go for him instead. But it's easy to say that now, and it was very close between those two for me. I just went for Haaland because I have a sneaky feeling if he starts and gets to 60, 70 minutes, he'll outscore any player that I have in my team, but I might be wrong. This is my team, says Nick. Gaeta, Trippier, Robertson, Ake, Rico Lewis, Rashford, captain, Gakpo, Odegaard, Haaland, and Nketiah, Kane. Some decent differentials in there for you. Ultimately, I think what you're missing out on for 25 would be 1, a Wolves defender, 2, maybe a Salah, and more importantly, I'd say Saka. So I think Martinelli to Saka could be a really good move for you, Nick, but I would also have some concerns about your goalkeeper Gaeta. And long term, of course, I'm not a big fan of Rico Lewis or Robertson, but you have some interesting picks for the next 2 game weeks. They should do well. But yeah, definitely, I would like to get in Saka primarily. Yeah, Marco, let's wait and see. Hopefully Arsenal don't disappoint, but this is why I never get my hopes up with Arsenal. They always seem to let you down, and a really good commanding position literally just 2 weeks ago, all gone to waste with some poor results and performances. I feel like Trossard is more suited to the system than Martinelli. Not just that, it's also with the players around him. Martinelli does not coexist well with Nketiah. When Jesus comes back, I think they'll bring out the best of Martinelli. And not just that, Zinchenko, him inverting as that midfielder doesn't really help out Martinelli, who has to just be, how should I put this? He's just literally stuck to the touchline, maintaining that width, and he's far too wide for my liking. I captain Joao Murray in the second day of UCL Fantasy. Yeah, same here. The question now is, do we switch or do we hold? And it's a decent question. He only got 8 points. I say only, still decent, but the likes of Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia, Haaland could definitely do as well. I benched Ake first sub and played Andreas. To be fair, Ake might be benched, so it's not a bad idea. You might be on the right track there. And even though Brighton are a good team, Fulham could score and Andreas could be involved, so not a bad shout. Who would be your best Shaw replacement for next week? I do like Chelsea defenders like Badiashile, so that's a good option. But I would say Kilman or Dawson would be my favourite, and you've also got Tarkowski. I'd probably go for Kilman though. I ended up going for Trippier for Bueno in the last minute. Trippier's free kick threat was scaring me. Yeah, and also, let's not forget, Trippier's the best defender in the game so far this season. Oh my god, I just opened YouTube, missed a deadline. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I've missed deadlines before, even when I've streamed. So sometimes I would basically stream the night before, and then I just oversleep, have a late night, and I'd missed the deadline and not made my transfers. This happened to everyone. When do you intend on coming to South Africa? I mean, maybe one day it'd be great. I mean, there's so many places I haven't visited, but South Africa would definitely be on the agenda. I know people from there, or, at least they have family from there. But yeah, one day, why not? Rashford won't play 90, Barcelona's coming. Yeah, that also played a part in my thinking. I thought Rashford wouldn't be... Obviously, I did mention earlier in the stream that he might be a bit more nailed on for 90 than Haaland, but it's not completely set in stone. I can see us drawing this game, or even losing it. Emery has gotten the better of Arteta in the past, obviously different Arsenal team and all of that, and Villarreal are a better side than Aston Villa, but I would not be surprised if Arsenal drop points today again. Thank you, Wei Seng. We're going to need it, and obviously Arsenal still are in the better position than City, but I see Arsenal losing again to City in the Etihad, so Arsenal need to build a run, beat Everton, their game in hand, beat Villa, beat Leicester, and with the form they're in at the moment, I don't see it. I benched Trippier. Honestly, I don't really blame you for it. If I brought in Kilman, I would have considered benching him. I did Kane to Felix, fair enough. I wouldn't have done it myself, but Felix is a good option this week. Swapped captaincy to Rashford last minute. I hope it works out for you, mate. He has been in great form. Martinelli's best in the fluid system, and Nketiah doesn't enable it for now. Yep, I agree. There's so many different reasons. Also, Arsenal being off form in general. I went with Salah. I've got KDB because of the uncertainty. How do you feel about that? But ultimately, Salah will get more minutes, and you should assume more points over the next 4 game weeks. So, makes sense. I feel like Cravadonna and or Haaland captain is the plan of action. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, but I'll talk about that more, or at least I'll put some posts and talk about it. And let me know if any of you do watch UCL Fantasy videos. Do you want to see a stream where we maybe react? It could be a quick one where we talk about substitutions and stuff like that, just to keep, add some more video ideas, more stream ideas, and more content for you in UCL Fantasy, which is very popular on this channel. So Bruno for Maddison, hopefully get a point. I think Bruno is going to do really well against Leicester, or at least he can do, and I would favour him over Maddison, but long-term, Maddison does look like a really good purchase. Bench Martinelli, Trippier for Bueno and Mitrovic, Dylan. I would not have started Mitrovic over Martinelli or Trippier in particular, but it's not a bad option. I didn't captain Haaland. I wouldn't be too fast about it. Rashford could do well, as an example. If I had to pick one, it probably would be... I mean, obviously, midfield is always favoured in fantasy formats, but Osimhen's form is just frightening. I know they both scored yesterday, but I probably would go for Osimhen. At the moment, I might change my mind as we get closer to the substitution window. Why Arsenal not playing European game this week? I'll be honest, I'm not too sure about... I haven't checked. Oh yeah, so we're saying basically the reason why Man United and Barcelona have played is because Barcelona dropped down from the Champions League and Man United finished second in their group, and that means they're playing the round of 32 or round of 64, something like that. So they have to play an extra game or set of games. Arsenal have already gone through to the next round. Man United have to win against Barcelona to then get to the same stage as Arsenal. Hopefully you got that. They changed that rule this season, and it gives you an incentive to go out, play your strongest team in the Europa League group stages, and try to get first position. Smith Rowe and Nelson back will help us squad depth. Yeah, it does, but I think Jesus is the big miss right now. Cape Town is a beautiful city. Yeah, like I said, I've never been there. I've heard great things, seen some pictures, but obviously that's a completely different thing. Yes, Tom, it is a plugin. Just type in FPL Away Kits Chrome extension, and you'll find it. You can add it to Chrome, Google, should I say Brave, stuff like that. It won't work with Safari and a few other browsers, but it does work with some with the Google Chrome kind of setup. Our team is exactly the same, except the keeper. I got Raya, and I would back Raya over Kepa as well. So yeah, let's wait and see. I do need help with UCL substitutions. They are confusing. Yeah, ultimately what you want to do is have those that play on the 21st and 22nd, so later in the week, on your bench. Do not bench anyone playing on the 14th or 15th. Obviously, they've already passed, but just something to bear in mind. Otherwise, you lose out on the points. You can make subs as the week progresses, take out players who've already played for someone who's yet to play, and you can boost your chances of getting more points. You ultimately want to get rid of your lowest scoring players and also change the captaincy. Who do you think will advance to the next stage? Man United, especially with Pedri potentially missing out, Gavi suspended, and Man United's form. No, I've not been to Malaysia, Sidindra. There's a lot of places, like I said, that I've not been to. I know someone that has been there, but haven't really asked them about it. I benched White for Badiashile. Hope it doesn't bite me in the arse like Shaw did last week. Don't even remind me of that. A lot of us did that, benching Shaw, but I did it last second, which made it even worse. And I brought in Tony. Looked like a great move, a masterstroke. Ended up backfiring too. All right, I'm going to probably put out a poll on my channel and see what most people say, but I'm guessing people will want to see more content, of course. I appreciate that, though. Bench Matoma instead of Odegaard. Fair enough. I would have benched Odegaard, but it's close. It's still close. I was thinking about Maddison over Martinelli. Yeah. Overall, I think Maddison's a better option than Martinelli. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that as well. Goalkeeper with Double Gameweek next week. Probably Jose Sa would be my favourite. Mr. Deadline, yeah. Someone else, Mr. Deadline as well. I do feel for you, but to be fair, a lot of us rolled this week. So if you had your team set up before, it's not a big deal. Twisted Parkypus's team looks really solid. Any concerns long term? Obviously, with Tony, you could bench him and just hope he doesn't get suspended in the games he does play. So 24, 26, heading into 27. But yeah, your team looks pretty solid. I have no issues with it for this week. Obviously, De Bruyne is a rotation risk, so to speak. But you're well set up for next week. You might even do, I'm guessing you're going to do KDB to Salah. Very easy move. You've got Saka. You're well set up. So yeah, it looks very, very solid. I thought United got robbed, in my opinion. But then again, though, Barcelona should have had a penalty. Fred literally handballed it in the box. I know you could argue that they could have been sent off for a challenge on Rashford, which was outside the box, but yeah, there were decisions both ways. Thank you, Juega Leonardo. Hopefully you got that and understood. You can check out my How to Play UCL Fantasy Guide for any more information as well. That's really good. 117 points is massive. Dylan Wooden adding FPL to your username on YouTube. Yeah, I have thought about that, Diogo. Maybe it would. If I continue with FPL and content and stuff like that, then it is definitely worth a shout. But I also want to think of something a bit original. I'm not sure. Dylan FPL, I think it might be taken anyway. I'm not sure. I need to check. But yeah, I will consider that. De Bruyne hat-trick of assists against Nottingham Forest? I hope not, but it's definitely possible. I won't give the exact location, of course, for security reasons, but I live around the UK, let's say. Is the Europa League round of 16 draw this week? Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not that focused on the Europa League right now. I've kind of lost. Well, I'm never really interested. I wish Arsenal win it. I hope Arsenal win it, especially if they don't win the Premier League. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's basically what I'm saying. The ref was terrible. Yeah, I mean, then again, which ref has been good recently? I think the Brighton-Liverpool game, the Premier League one, not the FA Cup one, that was a good referee, or at least good refereeing performance. Anything else? Any other good refereeing performances recently? There was one maybe in an Arsenal game. Well, when was it? Wasn't Everton, wasn't Wolves. What was it? I think the Arsenal Man City game in the FA Cup was a decent refereeing performance as well. There was one as well before that. But yeah, basically, long story short, most referees are terrible. For Morocco as well on your plans, Dylan. Good everything here. Yeah, I mean, there's so many places though. That's the thing. I've got a list really to tick off. Thank you, Ziofan. It's good to hear. Hopefully you keep on rising. I benched Darwin, Trent, Ake, and hold on to KDB and Nketiah. I mean, looks fine to me. I think if Ake starts, he has a good chance of hauling, but benching Trent and Darwin is reasonable. Yeah, I mean, I would like that, just to have a different option to consider. But then again, if Gakpo hauls, let's say a massive haul against Newcastle, you might become a really popular option, you know, the most transferred in player ahead of 25. And then again, you want to, you know, have a player that no one else has really. So it kind of works both ways. Hey bro, is Liverpool playing 2 games this week? No, in Game Week 25. In 24, everyone has a single game week. In 25, 4 teams blank and 4 teams will double. Who do you prefer as a neutral? Sir Jim or Qatar Money? Whoever doesn't invest more, so United don't do that well. That's basically going to be my answer. I'm guessing it'll be Sir Jim. I don't know. I don't know any of them as an owner, how they would do, but I'm guessing Qatari Money would be worse and United will become more serious, invest more money, and be like Chelsea. So I hope it's not that. Do you live on an island? I wish. No. Want to get Maddison in, but going to be tricky. Yeah, but then again, your team's well set up. I wouldn't be in a rush to do that. I mean, based on recent form, I would back Aston Villa to get a draw win. I mean, look, despite Arsenal being so poor recently, I would back them to respond, but I just don't see them being Villa, Leicester, and also Everton. I just see them dropping points, unfortunately. Aston Villa's a tough game. Unai Emery as well. You know what? Let's go for a 2-1 Aston Villa. I was considering captaining Rashford or Haaland, but ended up captaining Saka. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, I've done stuff like that before, to be fair. Maybe that's overthinking. I would have gone for Rashford and Haaland too, but let's wait and see. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, the thing is with referees, it is a tough job. And they're always going to, you know, upset people, even if they're doing their job. You know, they've got laws to follow, but sometimes they make absolutely just awful calls, forgetting to draw the lines, looking at VAR for an obvious decision and still getting it wrong. You know, there's so many things that they just basically F up. So, yeah. Where do you prefer to live, UK or other places you have lived? Well, I've never lived in another place, but I have visited other places. But, I don't know, right now I guess UK, but that could obviously change in the future. Who should I bring in? Gabriel or Trent for sure? Akanji next week. I would rather get in Gabriel. Yeah, despite obviously all the problems that Arsenal have had. I mean, I think the way to do a poll in Discord is a bit weird. You basically put a question and people react to it with certain emojis. I think that's the way to do a poll. If United get Qatari money, it's over. To be fair, United have spent a lot. You know, since Ferguson left, they've spent the most alongside City, and they've still not been that good. So spending money isn't a guarantee of success, but I'd rather they don't spend. Are you a foodie guy, Dylan? I do like food, but I wouldn't say I'm a connoisseur, if that's what you're asking. It must be nice to live in the UK. I haven't been to a Premier League game recently. I did go to some Arsenal games in the last year or two, but not many. I actually used to go much more. I was, you know, able to with cheaper prices for one, and also it was much easier to get tickets. Yeah, unfortunately, that's how FPL is sometimes. UCL Fantasy, for example, is a bit more open. You know, we have so many different avenues for players. Supposedly, Odegaard, Saka, Trust, and Martinelli like the look of that a lot. Yeah, so do I. Obviously, it would be a 4-3-3, but that is a really dynamic attack, and I think Nketiah needs to be benched. I appreciate that, Benji boy. Thank you very much. Thoughts on wildcard 27, free hit 28, and bench boost 29? Someone mentioned it earlier. I like the idea, and I'm open to it myself. Yeah, honestly, it does look really good. Obviously, the wildcard sets up the bench boost in 29, and if you have a really good setup for the rest of the season as well, you don't really need to worry about 28 either, because you've got the free hit there, and in 32, you can still have a really good team. Obviously, a lot of things can change, and we might change our mind when we find out more about blanks and doubles in 25, but yeah, looks really solid. Promise us you stop reading our chats for memberships only when you read 50k subs. Wait, well, what do you mean? Please promise us you stop reading our chats. Look, whether I have 10k, 20k, 50k, obviously that'd be great. It will take some time though. I will still try to answer as many questions as possible, but it will be difficult. It will be difficult. When in UCL Fantasy, for example, when we have over 1,000 people watching, it's impossible for me to go for every question, to give detailed answers, and some people sometimes ask questions even if they've been answered already, which obviously makes it more difficult as well. But yeah, I will try my best still. Would you like to see some changes in FPL next season? I mean, I always would like to see some changes to freshen the game up, maybe new chips. Also, I don't know, maybe a bit of a change in transfers or captaincy, something like that. I would also like to see some new points. So for ball recoveries, tackles, like in UCL Fantasy, I would like to see that in FPL. Yeah, Karim looks really solid for this week. I'm not sure who SAHW is, but the rest looks very solid. Mbumo is a decent punt for this week. I don't like him too much long term, despite his double in 27. And I do prefer Tony, but it's a good lineup. I'd give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. It looks pretty good. Do you want Lens or Monaco in UCL next season? Haven't seen Ligue 1 too much, to be quite frank with you. I'd say Lens just because it's something different. I think they have the best defensive record in Ligue 1 this season as well. Yeah, like I said to Boko, I'm not going to stop. Well, it wouldn't be my intention to, but obviously it will be difficult to read everything if I have more viewers, watching at the same time and, a really busy chat. I have the same 11 as you. Well, hopefully we do well. Let's see what happens. I miss refs like Pierluigi Collina. Yeah, he was a good ref. Obviously, he would have his stinkers as well, but he's regarded as one of the best refs of all time. David Illeri, I have to check up on. Maybe I recognize his face, but not the name. I think trust in Nketiah Saka. Yeah, it's possible, Josh. It is. That's true, but things like Weghorst being main striker will never happen. Of course, it's just a January signing, though. That's the thing. And also the Dutch connection. I think the 2 goals against Argentina also played a really big part in his big move as well. I've been to Chelsea, Dynamo game in November. All fans that dead in Premier League. Well, to be completely frank, because I've been to a game in Argentina where there's ultras, there's flares, there's non-stop singing basically throughout the whole game. There are some good atmospheres in England, like Crystal Palace probably have the best home atmosphere. Arsenal have been much better this season compared to years gone by. But I'll be quite frank with you. A lot of these stadiums are quite massive and you've got like a mixture of corporate and, diehard fans. So it's difficult for the sound to travel around. It might sound like excuses, but you've got that mixed on top of no ultras. And you've also got strict kind of stadium rules sometimes and no standing areas due to safety concerns. All of that plays a part in the Premier League atmosphere being a bit flat compared to Argentina, Serbia, all these, Turkey. So I'd say, yeah, I wouldn't say they're completely dead. There are some good fans. There's some loyal ones, of course. There's some good atmospheres sometimes. But in general, I think there are countries and leagues with much better atmospheres than the Premier League. Bruno replacement for next week. Salah, if you can afford him. Saka, for me, is the best option in the midfield. He's really good value for money too. Let's wait and see Sedindra, but it does look like it's between him and Martinelli to be dropped. I support Arsenal, unfortunately. What's your favourite FPL YouTuber? I don't really watch any, to be honest, so I couldn't give you an answer. I've always wanted there to be minus points in general. Wait, what? And also when players get red cards and own goals, etc. Well, there is... I think you do lose points for own goals and red cards. You do get that. I think also conceding a penalty would be a good one, even though that would be really, really frustrating too. Yes, Tyron, funny that you mentioned that. So for any of you that aren't aware, Sorare, I would recommend them. I'm going to put a link in the description below as well. So I have actually made a team for Sorare. Let's see if it actually logs in. So here we go. I've gone for Jose Sarr, Hillman, Saka, Rashford and Haaland. Let me know your thoughts on Sorare, but they have made a partnership with the Premier League and they've also partnered up with me for this video. Let me just bring up the link as well. Be sure to check it out. You can sign up for free. You don't need to spend any money. So be sure to check this link out. I'm going to put it right now in the description and also the live chat just to make it easy for you to follow. Let me know your thoughts on Sorare. I'm interested to see your thoughts first before going through it further. But check the link in the description and also in the live chat that I just put. Sign up using that link and it's for free. You don't need to spend any money. And you also, it's a kind of innovative fantasy game because the prices are based on the last 15 performances, the average points they get. There's a kind of rating between 1 to 100, and also there's so many different avenues and factors taken into account. There's 48 different parameters that they use to calculate these scores. So it's different to just getting goals and assists. Tacklers are awarded and all of that. So be sure to check it out. I've gone for Rashford captain in this, which sounds funny because I've gone for Haaland captain in FPL, but maybe I've covered both bases that way and I do get something in the end. You can earn weekly prizes, tickets to games, you can also earn merchandise and also rare cards as well. So be sure to check it out and also check out Sorare. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'll keep this up for a while longer and also change the description a bit quickly. So let's see how much we've got in terms of subscribers. We have made progress today. I appreciate those of you that subscribed today. And also at one point we had over 400 viewers, which obviously I appreciate. UCL Fantasy is a bit more, let's say, turbulent, but still, I appreciate those of you that tune in for the Premier League streams as well. And in a way, in terms of the conversation, it is better to maybe have less, but of course we are striving for more, and that is going to be our aim for the end of the year. We're trying to get to 25 subscribers by the end of the season, which might be difficult, especially because there will be some time where I'm going to go off, unfortunately, but I'll be letting you know very soon as well. Let me just check this very quickly. Let's see. Okay, no, the stream's completely fine. I'm not sure why this is not working. So we got over 256 likes today, by the way. So thank you to everyone who liked the video. I do appreciate that. If any of you are still watching, haven't done it, then be sure to drop it a like as well. We're going to get the lineup in 5 minutes for the Arsenal game, now 4 minutes. So let me just keep going through these questions, check the lineups, cry on stream because of the Arsenal lineup, and then move on. Thank you, Ayab. I appreciate that. Bro, thoughts on Neymar in Premier League? It's possible, especially with PSG looking to offload him, but he's always kind of linked with a move away. But yeah, I do like that, to be fair. I would like to see him in the Premier League, although at the same time, he wouldn't go Arsenal, so he would just torment us, that's for sure. All United need to do is pay over the top money for Osimhen, and they will be able to challenge properly. Look, I'm not being disrespectful. United are a big club, of course, but why would Osimhen go from Napoli to United? I said the same with Kvaratskhelia to Arsenal. For me, Napoli are a better team than both right now. I just don't really see, look, yeah, the Premier League, big move, bigger club, but I would honestly stay at Napoli right now if I were them. Honestly, I can understand what you're saying, and they probably would like that move, but I think he should stay. Which number 9 should Chelsea be moving to in the summer transfer? Well, if you can get to him, Osimhen, but like I said earlier, and this is even more so if Chelsea were struggling right now, why would Osimhen go Chelsea? But he would be a really good move for both clubs, and I wouldn't see him flopping. Yeah, Gakpo could be one to consider, but right now, no. No, I wouldn't go for him right now. I guess it would be nice to add a coach spot. Yeah, I like that as well. So based on the results they get, and obviously Pep Guardiola being the most expensive, based on this year, if Arsenal finish second or first, maybe Arteta will be expensive as well, but that's a good shout. I think Thomas Frank could be an underrated pick then. You know, it might not be that expensive, but I like that idea. It's quite different as well. No fantasy game has it. You know, UCL Fantasy, World Cup Fantasy, all of that, they don't have a manager spot. And managers are so important to how teams play as well. Martinelli for Saka and Felix for Kane. Is that a bad move? No, they're not bad moves. I would only do Felix in for Kane if that's your way of funding Saka in for Martinelli. But yes, for Gameweek 25, it looks good. Been to European games, atmosphere's great. However, I think people assume more players means a better atmosphere. Yeah, no, I agree. That doesn't mean a better atmosphere. But for example, when I went to Argentina, literally, it was after a derby, so there was such a big reception for the players. And then again, it also depends on clubs. Not every single team has that level of support. But Rosario Central, it has the best fans, best atmosphere of any team I've ever seen. And they just don't stop singing, literally the whole game. The atmosphere is great, and it's obviously a joy to be a part of. Yeah, the deadline has passed. It has passed. Thank you, Manjali. I appreciate that. Chelsea should have gone for Isak last year. Then again, though, he didn't have a great record. I know it's not all about goals, and Isak has far more to his game, but he only scored like 4 goals in La Liga, I think, the year before, when Chelsea would be linked to him. I agree, but unfortunately they would probably heavily consider it due to the money. Yeah, exactly. I'm a bit cynical when it comes to that, maybe like you. You know, when I look at it logically, it makes no sense. You know, Napoli are the better team. But when you look at money, you look at maybe the fame as well, going to the Premier League and all these other factors, it gives them a better chance of awards, of trophies, long-term potentially. They're going to maybe look at that as well. How about a game based on Pep Roulette Predict? I mean, that would be a great skill. You know, whoever can predict Pep the best gets prizes. I mean, that is a good idea as well. If only Chelsea could get Kane. Yeah. I think he's more likely to go Man United, though. But it'll be interesting to see where Osim goes. I think he's a Man United fan, but he has been heavily linked with Chelsea as well. I agree with you, but money always talks, yeah. And the project of taking United back to the top, yeah, exactly. I honestly think Napoli are a dark horse for Champions League. Exactly that. For me, the most likely to win, and I've said this all season, especially since the... you know, after we saw some games in Serie A and also in the beginning of the Champions League. So my top 4 for the Champions League would be Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Napoli, and Man City. Maybe in that order as well. Man City might have a chance this year, even if they're not that particularly great and they are vulnerable. Yeah, that is true. Dark horse never win Champions League. I mean, I'd say the last time that happened was Porto in 2004, which was quite a long time ago. Maybe Inter Milan in 2010. Oddly enough, both of them coached by Jose Mourinho. Apart from that, you have quite a lot of favourites winning it. I mean, to be fair, who expected Chelsea to win Champions League in 2012 or 2020? Or was it 2021? No one. So there have been dark horses that won it, in my opinion. But then again, Napoli, you might argue, is an even bigger dark horse than any of those teams that I just mentioned. But yeah, let me know if any of you do play Sorare, and check the link that I put in the description and also in the live chat as well. So use that link, so sorare.pxf.io/DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, the Discord server, FPL League, and all of that good stuff. The lineups are out. Thank you, Singh. Let's go through them and cry. So let's go through this. Let's go through Arsenal's lineup. Oh, God. Ramsdale's in goal. White comes back in the side as expected. Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Trossard, and Nketiah. So that FPL South news was right. It is Martinelli making way, and also the likes of White and Trossard coming into the starting lineup. I don't think he said Martinelli out specifically, but he did say White and Trossard would start, which is what we kind of all expected. There were some rumours of Nketiah being benched. That's not true. He starts. I would have personally gone for Martinelli in for Nketiah, and also potentially Tierney in for Xhaka, and then put Zinchenko midfield. But honestly, I didn't expect that many changes. It's a solid lineup. Hopefully Arsenal get the job done. It's a decent bench as well. You've got Nelson in there, back in the squad, Smith Rowe as well, Martinelli, Kiwior, Holding, Tomiyasu, Tierney, Turner. No Partey though. That is a big blow. And let's not forget that since, I think this season overall, I'm not sure, or since Partey has signed, you know, the record, the win percentage with and without Partey is massive. Let's also go through the Aston Villa starting 11. Let's check this quickly. Aston Villa. Martinez will be in goal to face his former club. Cash, Konsa, Mings, Alex Moreno, McGinn, captain, Douglas Luiz, Kamara, Coutinho, Buendia, and Ollie Watkins. So no surprises there. Oh, God. Now this is a W. Look at that. That meme there. But yeah, what do you think of these lineups? Let me know your thoughts. But yeah, Martinelli benched. I'm happy that I got rid of him last week from -4. That it actually looks like a fantastic transfer, not just for Gameweek 23, but also long term. I think Haaland is built for tournament football. City could unfortunately go all the way. Yeah, in years gone by, I actually didn't mind City winning it, but maybe because we're competing with them now, I just dislike them more. And also with all the news coming out, and yeah, I just, honestly, I'm a bit sick. I would like to see Napoli win the Champions League, you know, even if that's another team that's won it and not Arsenal. I like Napoli, you know, the way they're playing, and a bit of a dark horse winning it too. Yeah, Nketiah starts, Martinelli bench. That's what we're all talking about. But yeah, not too surprised. Like I said, I would have rather Nketiah be benched, but I can understand why Arteta's gone for this, and this was the more logical kind of switch. Trossard deserved to start, that's for sure. But yeah, there you go, Marco. Martinelli is out. Yes, Nketiah, says Sindra. Hopefully he scores, because the last 4 games, he's missed some big chances. Yay, Team Arsenal, boom, all my players start. Hopefully they deliver. That's now the next step. Glad I benched Martinelli. Regret transferring out Trossard. The thing is, though, is he nailed on long term? Obviously, let's wait and see. I think he will start here and also in 25, but it's not a guarantee for him to start both in 25. We've also got the Europa League coming very soon for Arsenal in a few weeks' time. Thanks for the advice. The risk paid off as I had Trossard on my bench from the Brighton days. Oh, yeah. I got him in at one point this season, and as soon as I got rid of him, he hauled against City, which was a bit frustrating. But there you go. It still almost helped Arsenal in that week too. Need to remember to ignore and mute certain people on Twitter who have no sources want attention. I actually think I muted that source because they got something wrong earlier, and I think they were... I'm not sure, by the way. I might be completely wrong about that, but they did get it right today. FPL South, that was. That Duran guy... going to cause havoc when he comes on. Good player. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm fearful of Aston Villa anyway, just because of Arsenal. Arsenal's biggest enemy is themselves, and Unai Emery might have a very bad evening for us. Got it in, so let's wait and see. Saka versus attacking Moreno looks nice, but assume Mings will kick the life out of him. The thing is, though, recently a lot of teams have doubled up on Saka, so even if they have an attacking left-back, or no official left-back like City do with Bernardo Silva, they can still handle Saka pretty well because of it. Odegaard to deliver? I hope so. Same with Saka. I need Arsenal to get the win, you know, because at the moment it's not looking good. So glad I did Martinelli to Saka. Same here. And also Mahrez in for Bruno. You know, those transfers have worked like a charm, should I say. So very happy with those. For Champions League, should I stick with João Mario as captain or switch to Vinicius or Haaland? Well, remember, you do have, apart from Vinicius, you might have another 21st of February player, someone playing on the Tuesday. I'm considering moving João Mario to Kvaratskhelia or Osimhen, which is risky, but I think it is worth the risk. So, honestly, there's no right or wrong. If you want to play it safe, João Mario 8 points is fine. But I think a Napoli player like Osimhen or Kvaratskhelia or Haaland could outscore him. I wouldn't switch it to Vinicius, but a Napoli player or Haaland, yes. I hope not. I hope Arsenal can get the dub. And look, if they can get back to their early season form, they definitely would be the favourites and could do really well. Yeah, Trossard could be one to consider in the future, but I'd still rather go for the nailed-on Odegaard and Saka in the midfield. But I am open to Trossard, who has been in great form and has had some really good cameos for Arsenal. Tough one, because over the course of the season, I think Gabriel's been more consistent. Saliba had a period where he made a lot of mistakes. You know, Leeds, let's not forget, he was awful. Which Arsenal won the game, and because they did, that's kind of brushed under the rug. The way I see it, the first 9 games of the season until the Tottenham game, Saliba was better. Since then, Gabriel has been, but there have been some games like the City one just the other day. Saliba was good, Gabriel was quite awful, especially in the second half. They both have weaknesses. Saliba, I think, can sometimes be a bit too composed, should I say, which sounds weird, but what I mean by that is he sometimes dallies a bit too much on the ball, and, you know, I think he makes some mistakes with his positioning. With Gabriel, I think his composure is his biggest weakness. So they're both not perfect. I think they can grow into a really good centre-back partnership, but Arsenal defensively have been vulnerable, especially at home this season. Only 2 clean sheets, I think, at home. Not good enough. They need to keep more. And look, overall, I'd say Gabriel, but it's quite close. Also, Qatar bid for United. I hope it doesn't go through, but apparently there's some conflicting reports. You know, UEFA might allow it, but then at the same time, some organisations are telling them not to. So I'm not sure what to believe there. Thank you, Gary. I mean, look, João Mario has been great in the Portuguese league, 5 goals in his last 3 games. And also, if we look at the Champions League, he's been very consistent since match day 3. I had him to start the season. He didn't really do well for me. I got rid of him. He started doing really well. I'm happy to have got him back in. And of course, he's on penalties, which boosted his score in match day 7. Good luck to you, Marco. Captain Osimhen or Haaland? Remember, you can captain someone on each day. So captain Osimhen first. He plays on the Tuesday. If he doesn't do well, captain Haaland on the Wednesday. Very simple. Thank you, Sea-Dog. What else do we have? Got Bueno first bench in case Pep decides to drop out KDB or Mahrez. Yeah, that looks really solid. Yeah, it's kind of a difficult one, really. Really difficult benching headaches for you. Looks fine. I wouldn't have benched KDB or Mahrez either. I hope not, Singh. I hope not. Hope Arsenal can get the job done, and I am backing them to do the business as well, hopefully. I mean, to be honest, it's just so difficult with Arsenal. They always seem to let you down, even if they're in a really good position. They've done it many times before. I don't want to even name those seasons. But let's wait and see what happens. We've got the early kickoff, Arsenal versus Aston Villa. Let's hope Arsenal can mount a response. We have a title challenge on our hands, a serious one. And we finally have a different winner than just Man City winning the Premier League once again. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We just hit 18,000 recently. We're looking to get to 19,000 and then 20k. And you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're looking to get to 2,000 followers on Twitter and on Instagram. So be sure to check those platforms as well. And on Discord, we are looking to get to 400 members as well. I think we are around 300. We're looking to push on for that, and we're looking to set new milestones in all of these platforms. In terms of channel members and patrons, we've got around 50. We want to keep on pushing and getting to more, and we would like to get to 100. That'd be greatly appreciated. And thank you to everyone who sent in a super chat today, all the new subscribers, and everyone who sent in a comment and question. And yeah, thank you. Let's try to get this stream to 250 likes if you haven't already. I think we can do that. Thank you, Marco. And good luck, Gary, with your work league. And that's really impressive. Hopefully you can continue with the green arrows and continue doing really well until the end of the season. It's going to be a long run. We've got some doubles and blanks. We could shake things up. Let's see how it all pans out. Thank you, Bada. Thank you, everyone else, for watching. I'll see you very soon. There could be a reaction stream tomorrow. I'll let you guys know. And girls, of course, let's not leave you out. But until then, I'll see you next time.